Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for coming here to listen to the X-Plane Gaming Podcast.
Ooh, this is getting all naughty already.
Smooth, silky intro.
I'm trying to mix it up. I'm trying to appeal to a wider audience. This is going to bring the people that really wanted a sexy talking video game podcast.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No, but thank you for tuning in as always. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing there. I just as it started, I was like, I'm going to mix it up right now.
Yes, we are drinking right now.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the alcohol, guys. But we are drinking. But anyway, so thanks for everybody for tuning in. We're going to be having a fun discussion today. We're going to talk about our top 10 favorite Nintendo 64 games. But before we get to that, I have a few guests here with me, as you've already heard. Frequent co-host and my good friend Jimmy D is back in the house.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, as you should be. Thank you, James.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Jer Bear here. We'll call him Father Jer Bear now. Daddy Jer Bear. Father Jer Bear is like a priest. Daddy Jer Bear. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's nice to be back on.
And I'm happy to have you here. This was a perfect. This subject came up in Discord, and after having some good conversation, I was like, this needs to happen. And this episode fell through a while back, and I hadn't rescheduled it. So I was like, let's just do it now while it's still fresh in our minds. And you were a no-brainer for it. And there's a couple other people I wanted on, but I just couldn't make it happen schedule-wise. But yeah, thanks you both for joining. And before we start talking about what we've been playing, why don't we just see how you guys have been? How you been, Jarret? What's some big changes in your life? Yeah.
I guess you can say that. I guess a little bit of a big change that's why I'm Papa Bear now. Mm-hmm. That's right. I got a little daughter, Brooke.
Congratulations. It's nice to get over. I mean, we've never had a baby, but I know how stressful that can all be. And once she's finally here and you can just have the baby and enjoy that, I'm sure it's a huge stress relief. And then maybe some of its own stresses now. But
oh, yeah. You got your different stresses or maybe beginning lack of sleep. But we had some good support. Kim's sister, Michelle, she was over quite a bit the first week or so. So it was very helpful. Kind of getting used to that transition, the change, and getting an idea of the schedule, sleeping and doing all that. So that was really helpful because I know not many could have that kind of a resource of someone just the way her runs. She has her own business, so like she was able to make that time pretty easily. It was kind of a slow time for her, so it was great to have that support.
That's awesome, man. It's nice when you have family or friends that can come in and help like that because once again, I don't have kids, but I've had enough friends who have gone through this, and I've seen how tiring it can be, like very exhausting. So to have that level of support is like super. That's awesome.
Yeah, the amazing thing of now you're seeing creation and having children in that sense is you have that much more appreciation for women. Where thinking of us guys, where if I don't get my sleep, I'm not going to function. But the way Jehovah designed the women, where they're able to give birth and have these children and the hormones or however those chemical changes, she can get it with just like a half hour of sleep a day, and she was able to function, do those things. So
and be a mom.
It's just amazing because we can't do it. We would just blow up or something. If it was us, there's no way.
Combustion.
That's right. So it's amazing to see. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, and man, Mama got the hormones and whatever that is. Like it was just
Special
amazing
strength.
to see that. It really is. It was just remarkable to see that where what she could get done in a couple hours of sleep, where I'd be like, I can't function.
Yeah. So shout out to our female listeners.
Yeah.
You guys are bosses.
Shout out to Kim. Let's go, Kim.
For sure.
Yeah.
Popped a baby out. Good
That's
job.
right. Yeah. 28 hours of labor.
Holy crap.
No.
Yep.
Wow.
Yikes. Yeah, that does take special strength right there.
Yeah. It was a Thursday night. It was about, I think, midnight. She says, I think like contractions or I think that's starting to happen. So throughout the night, I slept most of that night. So I said, okay, I got it. No, I know I need to get some sleep to be ready for the day. And then that morning, it's like 6 and it's happening more and more. So it was about 9 a.m. before we left for the hospital. Then it got there about 9 or so. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, man.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, very much so. Congrats. And that's all very good news. But on the other end, the more important news that you have is you've started a little bit of a game collection.
Who would have ever guessed something like that would happen on a podcast?
And obviously, I'm joking. It wasn't the more important news, but you brought some of your items here today to kind of show off, right? So we're going to do a little spontaneous collector's edition episode with some one-ups and pickups here that for Jarret's new budding collection that he's started.
That's right. Okay, so I think I will start with actual game stuff because the second themes are at least connected to games, but my goal was to start collecting some physical old school Nintendo games, the really 64, Super Nintendo. I haven't decided to do the original Nintendo or not. I got inspired by those stands I saw like on Etsy. I think I sent them on the Discord, some of those photos. So with that being said, because I actually have space to put those in, so here are the items I have. So the very first one, which is shout out to Jaden when he was at the Collector's Haven.
Ooh.
Found Majora's Mask.
The
Let's
lenticular
go.
cover.
That is. I have to say, this is probably the coolest of the 64 cartridges. Like the most
It's
unique.
beautiful.
The
man.
gold with the lenticular. It's very unique and very cool.
Really.
Were there any cartridges without it?
I think so. I feel like there was afterwards. I feel like I've seen them before. I don't know if
one of
like
the later
reproduction or... I feel like it, but...
Yeah, I truly don't remember. I've never owned that game other than on 3DS.
I know that with Ocarina of Time, the gold cartridge was a pre-order edition only.
Or like a first run or something.
I'm sure it was for pre-orders, maybe exclusively, maybe not. But it was an early run.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember with Majora's Mask, honestly.
I know it's always been gold. I just don't remember. There might have been a second run where it wasn't the holographic. That could be possible. But don't quote me. I didn't research that. But for some reason, I feel like I've seen it before. But I could maybe just dreaming it, making it up.
It's a beautiful cartridge.
But speaking of Ocarina of Time.
Bum, ba, da, ba, ba.
Ah.
That's nice.
That is pretty.
So you got them both gold.
Got them both gold. It's like
Let's
if I was
go.
going to collect, I want to get the gold ones.
Yeah, that's one of like my long-term collecting goals.
Wait, why should I be passing this around?
Is to eventually get a complete in box gold cartridge copy of Ocarina of Time. Dude, I love this.
It's cool.
Yeah. So for those that can't see, which is everybody that's not in this room, we're looking at the cartridges and just oohing and awing right now.
Yeah.
Do you still have your copies, James?
I do have. I know that I have Ocarina of Time cartridge. I wish I would have kept those CIB, but it's obviously never would have happened back then. But Majora's Mask, maybe. I know that I went to my parents last year and brought back like the last remaining vestiges of N64 stuff, controllers, games, and just like wires and cords that would have been attached to it, accessories. So I know that I at least have one of them still. I don't know if I have both. And maybe even instruction book, because I remember back then my dad would, he obviously toss all the cardboard, unfortunately, tears on both sides of my face, but he used to buy those plastic game containers. Like he still cared about protection. My
They
dad
were
did
branded.
back then. Yeah, they were like branded with, they were blue and they had N64 branded on the front, and so you could put your instruction booklet on the front, acting as a cover kind of, and then the cartridge inside. And so most of the games that I brought home have that case over them, and a lot of them have the instructions still, but not the box.
I remember that, and I don't know why I remember very specifically, but you having Wheel of Fortune in that one of those cases. I don't know why I remember that, but
Can confirm I still have that.
Let's go. Let's go.
I like game shows.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, sorry. I'm not trying to steal your Majora's Mask.
No,
And
that's
Jarret left her without
right
Majora's
here.
Mask.
Wait a minute,
go.
what happened?
I'm just going to take that.
That's
That was the one I had.
just like that. Who would have guessed?
See, I brought it here right now.
When it comes to the Majora's Mask, like this one is like a special memory because I don't remember a lot of purchases at this age. What was this, 2000?
Yeah.
2001? No, 99?
It was like right around 2000.
They-
I don't remember where exactly. But
Back then, no purchases were our own. They were our parents' purchases, and we would beg for those purchases to happen.
That's right. Oh, 2000. Yeah, 2000. So, and I remember this because it was for my allowance money, and I do remember that.
Nice.
And I went to the Federal Way Mall, and I also remember because came out in the fall. It was foggy out, cold, crisp. Walk in, get the game, and play to that day. Where then the intro was kind of that foggy in the forest.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like the mood was already perfectly set for the game.
That's awesome, man. That's a good memory.
There's just very few I remember. I kind of also remember I remember Pokemon Yellow, purchasing that at the GameStop where now Harbor Freights is off of.
The one behind there.
Yeah.
The one that got robbed every other week.
Yeah, that's right. For some reason, the guy kept
You
getting
didn't work at
robbed.
that one, did you?
No, I would have been robbed there too.
So it's kind of fun, like what memories can I remember? Like, remember that? I remember Pokemon Yellow, but just like that one, I always remember. Because when it comes to Ocarina of Time, I was given that from a family friend of ours, where it's like the standard gray edition. So it's like I was given that one, but just like you kind of remember your first things or doing yourself. And the last of games, classic games, and this is going to be a shout out to Clay and it's the hopefully I'm not saying this wrong, Claygaman.
Oh yeah.
Man. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
his name's Clay, so I got to meet him yesterday. Really friendly guy. So always nice to meet people in person.
Yeah.
And this is where he went to that half price books.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so $20.
Oh, let's go.
Mario Kart. Yeah, Super Mario Kart.
The
So
OG Super Mario Kart.
oh man, fond memories playing that.
Maybe
one.
I'm crazy, but I always like the Player's Choice editions with the ribbon and stamp
There's
on
some,
them.
that gold, and then the fact that they do the Super Nintendo logo, and then that little line at the top in that gold too. It looks pretty nice.
It does. It's like a nice little accent, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I just like it.
I'm sure it's just like the greatest hits, where some people will be like, nah, it's like original or bust. But I don't mind it. I also don't mind greatest hits versions of games either.
I honestly don't
so.
think the value probably isn't that significantly different.
It's
from
not.
one
It
to the
depends on
other.
the game. It really does.
sure.
In some cases, the greatest hits, PlayStation hits, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Some cases that version is way more expensive
Yeah.
just because it had a smaller print run.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But anyway, so yeah, that's cool. That's a nice start.
Yeah.
So you have, and I know you sent on the Discord, but you have an idea like the games that you want. How many is it total that you're looking to get?
So I'll say the official or kind of my original start was 6 64 games and 6 Super Nintendo. I posted the list on there, but most of it's like the Nintendo games. We use Super Mario 64, Mario World, and those things. So that's the first set, but I do have space for another set. So I bought 4 of those stands because he was doing like a sale or something. It's like, okay, well, I might as well just get more, even if I don't do more. So I'll have the space for it. So I don't know if I'll just do another series of 64, more Super Nintendo, or just NES, but I have options to expand. So I have my original list, like the priorities, these set of games to get that started.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, and it's fun. Like doing the hunt and everything is just fun. One of these days, if you have some extra time, we should do a small video game hunt trip and go to some stores around the area.
Yeah, no, it'd be fun to see that. Because, I mean, there's owls right there, but it'd be cool to find, like, really good deal. Or they recently got a bunch of games. There's some of them on the list, but I was like, okay, I'll hold off just in case. Because I think you're planning on going to Portland in September if you can.
Yeah, that's the plan. I haven't bought tickets yet, but I want to go to the Portland Retro Game Expo again.
Are they already on sale? The tickets for that?
I'm going to buy tickets soon because I do have every intention of going.
Nice. I'll probably just have you buy mine and I'll cash you or something.
Yeah, that's fine. End of September. So if anybody in the area, or I guess even if you're not in the area and you want to come to Portland, but anybody who wants to go, hit me up. We can meet up there or whatever. So, but yeah, I do tend to go. So, whatever you haven't gotten yet, put on a list and I'll keep an eye out for.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. No, I love. We've talked about this before. And I think me and Jaden just talked about it in the last episode, but I almost love the hunt of buying video games just as much as I like playing sometimes. Like it's a adrenaline rush that I truly enjoy.
Yeah.
And I like finding a deal.
Yep.
So that's exciting, man. I'm glad that things in your life everything's going good. You got the new baby, you got the new game collection, and it sounds like I'm saying them like they're on the same level.
Yeah, pretty indistinguishable.
I mean, yeah. But
Okay, come on.
Just a question. As a father, a beautiful baby girl, when she hasn't started crawling yet, has she? I don't know when. I don't know the whole time.
Yeah, that'll be a while.
Be a while.
Not yet.
When that
even
does,
I know that's really soon for a baby to crawl.
Never had kids.
Is she talking yet?
Oh yeah, sentences.
When is pre-algebra?
I was a child 35 years ago ish.
Oh well, you're still kind of a child.
I mean, I have childlike features still for sure, but no. So when she's able to crawl, you are absolutely going to get like 3 plushies: Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle. Put them in 3 parts of the room and see which one she walks to first.
I'm
right?
very curious which one she'll choose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I've seen TikToks of people doing that with
Yeah.
their kids. It's the best way to know if you're going to get rid of the child or not.
Yeah.
Start over.
That was a dud. Gotta go.
Okay. Well, let's try again.
Sorry, Brooke. We're going to have to take your name back, too. We want to give that to the next one. Oh, man. No, well, And once again, congrats. Glad everything went well, and now I still haven't had a chance to meet her, but I look forward to it.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. Well, James, anything new and exciting in your life? Any new babies?
No babies, other than Tanuki and Kuma, my beautiful baby Persian kitties at home that we love, and as much as anyone could love a cat, for sure. Those are our children, at least for now.
No joke, I love this cat more than I can ever love any human baby.
That is how I feel at the current moment. I'm sure that would change as soon as I had a human baby,
Yeah.
but...
Have you seen Blades of Glory?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No joke, I love this brush more than I could ever love any human child.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
No, there's not a lot going on. Summer approaches. I'm gonna go camping, in a handful of weeks. We went to Tokeland.
Going camping?
Going camping.
Yay!
The nice American pastime that some people do sometimes. Yeah, we're gonna go for a meteor shower. But last weekend we went to Tokeland, so we did that. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
We did absolutely nothing, and that's exactly how I like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beautiful down there.
I love it.
And how was last time you were on? You were getting ready to go to Disneyland. How was Disneyland?
Oh yeah, it was good, dude. It was good. Yeah, they didn't have the cups Hannah was looking for. They ended the line, so Hannah was pretty sad about that. They started a new Star Wars mug line with different art style. She does not love as much,
Yeah.
and it was Hoth. And they already had Hoth in the old series of cups.
That's too bad.
Had been their series.
It's disappointing when you want to spend money and then you it's a weird thing. I know normal people would be like, "Oh, good, I don't have to spend money on this thing." But collectors are like, "Oh, now what do I buy?"
It's a weird
broken mindset.
I told Hannah, I was like, as somebody who collects way too many things, like right now this seems like a bad thing, but like with Amiibos, it gets to a certain point where you're like, okay, they just keep coming, and I just keep spending money, and I only have so much room, and this is getting harder, more complicated, but I'm in so deep, I have to keep buying them. So like at some point, it becomes relieving to know at least that there's just not any in the foreseeable future. So I told Hannah, this is probably a good thing. Now you just know you only need like 4 left. You get them. The collection is complete.
And then you can rest easy until you find your next addiction.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was a good trip.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was good. I got an episode 1 T-shirt. It was the 25th anniversary of episode 1.
Nice.
Saw that in theaters too, by the way. Always a fun watch. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that things are going well. Glad that you had some good trips. Let's go ahead and move on to the next segment, and that is... what you been playing? I had to remember to turn the volume down, and I forgot at the beginning, so it was probably really loud when it started.
Wake everyone up.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about what we've been playing recently, and let's go ahead and start with James. What have you been playing?
What I've been playing primarily is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown on the Nintendo Switch. I know you've played and beaten it, correct, Chris?
Yeah.
So you probably have some feedback on this, but I don't have like a ton of profound things to say about this game other than it's really fun. I'm a massive fan of games in this genre. The M word, Metroidvania.
Watch your tongue.
We're really spoiled. People that love this genre of video games, I mean, by default, these games generally are high quality, if you ask me. Like, very rarely do you find a dud, but, like, on the Switch, in this generation of video games, like, there's so many good ones. And I would say next to Metroid Dread and Hollow Knight, you could definitely put this game in the same breath as those. There's obviously differences. At first, I wasn't feeling it. Like, the first, 30 minutes...
Dig 2 was offended.
SteamWorld Dig 2 a Switch release for at launch?
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
it wasn't at launch of the console,
right.
but it launched alongside the other versions on Switch.
Honestly, that goes in the same breath, too. I love that game so much. Okay, top 5. These are all top 5. I have to determine an order when we do a Metroidvania episode, if we ever do that. But at first, I wasn't feeling it. Like, the first 30 minutes, I was kind of like... I don't know. It felt a little, overcomplicated. So there is more combat options in this game than I feel like I've ever had in any Metroidvania. Like what I can't remember what the name is. What's the main character's name again in Prince of Persia?
Prince.
Prince.
I don't remember.
Call me Prince. But he is. There's just so many combat options, dude. Like aerial combat, ground combat. Just
Sargon.
Thank you very much.
I had to look it up because I wasn't.
Sargon of the Immortals. He is a group of. He is part of an elite class of warriors set in this time period in Persia. that defend the realm, as it were. The story is pretty cool, I will say. It's kind of cool to have like a proper story like blended into a Metroidvania, because normally they usually leave it to you. Like, you know, Hollow Knight had like lore that you could kind of like search for and feel out yourself if you wanted to. It was more optional than anything. And in Metroid Dread, the story was honestly more, there was actual like cutscenes, and it felt more story.
Yeah, it and Fusion kind of hold the cake for actually having story
In a Metroid game.
And other M, I
At
guess,
least in the
but
2D version realm, you know?
Yeah.
But once you realize how cool it is moving in this game, I've got to say, like, the just the maneuverability, the navigating the world, like, it feels awesome. Like, I feel like in terms of like navigating a Metroidvania, it is the best I've ever felt in a game like this.
I agree 100%. I will say on the opposite end, like, I kind of felt like the story was pretty lame. Like, it didn't leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a little shallow for sure.
And it doesn't really like fill it out as it goes on. But 100%, that game, how do I put this? Like, kind of like what you were saying, the pace that you play it doesn't matter. You always feel like you're moving like so good.
Dude,
like the traversal in that game, whether you're going from point A to point B, or you're using a portal to move yourself somewhere else or whatever, like, it always feels right. They really got it right in that game.
I was gonna say, like, no Metroid game, no 2D Metroid game have I ever felt so like fast. Like, you feel like almost like Sonic, relatively speaking, compared to like Samus. You know what I'm saying? Like,
very early in the game, it feels like, so Super Metroid, you get the screw attack at the end, and the speed and everything, and that's when you feel like you can move at a decent pace.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia, you feel like that within like the first hour.
Yeah.
Like, they don't make you move slow, which is nice.
And especially once, you can sprint right from the get-go. And then once you get, I honestly just unlocked the double jump, which is honestly a lot farther in this game than it usually is.
It's super far in. I kept thinking I was missing something. Like, because there's so many areas that you should have been able to double jump to, and I was like, how do I not have a double jump yet? Like, what am I doing wrong?
I know. And they give you like the dash for, I don't know what you want to call it. It's kind of like their space jump, in that you move like half the screen forward in midair. But like, once you get all these abilities, and you're flying through the levels, man. Like, wall jumping into double jumps, into just drop into double jumps, into like feints and stuff. Like, you just feel so cool moving through this game, and that's something that I think I don't know, playing through this game and seeing all the combat options too, compared to like what you usually have in Metroid. I'm not saying Metroid is worse. It just doesn't have this level of customization. Doesn't have this level of I don't know.
I know what you mean.
Variety.
It's the reason Metroid gets a pass to me on all of that is because it's going for almost like a space horror feel. Like, like we've talked about before, it's inspired by Alien.
Yeah.
So things are supposed to be a little slower, I think.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I don't necessarily feel like it needs to catch up to. I know you're not saying that either, but yeah, Prince of 100%. Like, Prince of Persia, the movement, the way, just how easy it is to move, all the abilities you get, it's so good.
The parrying is similar to Metroid, at least in the Mercury Steam ones that we've got, the last two. But the combat is just, man, the options you have, and like, I don't even know, like it feels like more like a Spider-Man game, and the kind of combat options you have, than it does like a Metroid game, which is really interesting. But then you have all the navigation stuff to boot. Also, the boss battles are so cool. They're sick.
The boss battles are cool.
They're really cool. Sure. Yeah, and they give you like I think this happened a little bit in Metroid Dread too, but really small opportune moments where you can do a parry and do like a crazy cool cutscene against these bosses, where you can kind of like actually chip into their massive health gauge.
You can beat them without it, but it just takes forever.
It's a lot.
You
harder.
have to get parrying down in this game to really be good at it.
Yeah. Just generally speaking, I haven't beat it yet. Yeah. I played it all weekend when I was at Tokeland, and yeah, it's a really good game. I gotta say, like, I definitely think Mercury Steam or whoever the next Metroid, I'm sure it's gonna be Mercury Steam, but I think they gotta take some notes, honestly. Like, if I was ranking the ones I've played on Switch, I think it would go. I think I still got Metroid Dread at 1. I don't know. There's something about it, something with the Emmys and the like you said, the survival horror aspects of it, and just like the tone and the setting is just cooler than this game. But like, there are some mechanics in this game, combat and navigation wise that I feel like other people, including the Hollow Knight team, could definitely learn some stuff from. And we're talking about Ubisoft right now, right? Like, so
they're not exactly held in the highest regard.
Not anymore. But man, yeah, if you're looking for a good Ubisoft game, I found one.
It is. I loved it, and for me too. One of the things you might not have done too much of yet, but like you've already talked about, the platforming in it is so smooth, but as you get further into it, the challenges that you have to try to figure out how to platform your way through to like navigate are so rewarding. And that's like my thing in any game is like, I like it to be difficult, but I know it's doable. Like it's always doable in any game, but when you know, like, I just need to be better and that I can get this done. And that game really hits that note well, where you're just missing it by this much and you just have to improve. So you're platforming through this area, where there's spikes everywhere, but you use all the abilities you have to like maneuver around it.
Falling sand. I feel like I've experienced some of that. Like I'm in an area called the Pit of Sands, and there's like these massive centipede creatures that are moving.
That's one of the areas I was thinking about when I was saying that.
I think that was the moment when I was like, this is just really cool. I've never had anything like this in a Metroid game, like it in a 2D Metroid game, and I was like, this is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love that level of like tight maneuverability where it's just like, it's like perfection. It's platforming perfection. Not every game gets that right. Mario Wonder in its own different way got it right, but it's not, no matter how much I enjoy platformers almost across the board, they don't all do it right.
I hope that moving forward, I mean, if they're moving forward, Ubisoft is going to keep making Prince of Persia games. Like, I know they're working on a remake for whatever their original game
Sands of Time.
Which, honestly, this kind of has me a little bit curious about, because I never played it way back in the day, but I don't know.
But I've always heard it's really good.
Yeah. All I know is these games are always up my alley, and if they're going to keep doing ones like them, I am in.
Yeah.
I am in.
So, I get it.
Yeah.
So is that pretty much it for what you've been playing?
Also, Ikaruga. I don't have a whole lot to say. It's a shmup, one of the goats of the shmup universe.
Yeah.
If you look up lists, it's really hard, dude. It's really, really hard. Super humbling. I know going into it, I did like minimal research on like what people said about it, or like tips and tricks people would give. And going in, I was like, oh, there's only 5 levels in this game. I was like, sweet, this is
2 minutes.
This is gonna be a quick play. And I was like, oh,
oh my!
When you have a hard time just beating the first level, like just learning the mechanics of the game, and then getting through the second one took me a while. And now I've got to the end of the third, all on one, not on one coin actually. Oh, it's tough, because that's the whole thing that like shmup heads.
That community, it's one coin clears.
One coin clears. That's what it's all about. And so like I'm trying to figure like, do I want to? Is that what I want to shoot for? Because if that's what I'm shooting for, it would have to become my daily hobby to play this game, because it's really, really hard. Ikaruga is a shmup where you change your polarities. You go from like white to black, and if you're black, then you absorb all the black bullets. If you're white, you absorb all the white bullets. I believe that's how it works. Or is it the opposite?
That sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds right. So yeah, it's bonkers. It's really fun, but man, it's hard. And it's like reminded me like this is a different class of people play these kind of games.
Yeah, it takes a whole level of skill that I don't currently possess. I don't know that I can even get it at this point. I don't know, but I love that genre. But I'm not. I highly admit I'm not that good at it.
I wish there was a boss rush or something in this game, because like I keep getting to the boss at the end of 3, and I die immediately. By the time I get there, I'm like so whittled down and like just hanging on by a thread, and I'm like, I'm just dazed like this, and it's like if there was a boss rush, I could practice that boss on level 3, and then once I get to it, I'd have some confidence. But by the time I get there, I'm tripping, man. I'm like, I know if anything goes wrong, it's over.
And you still have 2 more levels.
Yeah, and it still has to be exactly. It's just like it can be it's not for the faint of heart, especially if you're going for a one coin clear, like you said. But I will update you as I move through this game at my own pace. I'm not going to prioritize it. That's why I prioritized Prince of Persia once I realized this is going to be a long-term project.
Yeah, it's going to take me some time.
Playing through this game and getting better at it, because it really is. It's like learning a video game language, playing these kinds of games.
And interestingly, from what I've heard, there's a YouTuber I watch, RNG Gamer. He loves this genre, so I've seen him do videos talking about shmups and stuff.
Yeah,
and he's. Interestingly, that game is not even remotely close to the hardest of that genre.
Yep.
And it's considered extremely hard.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
No, yeah, at the top end, it's insane, man.
Yeah. But it's I don't watch like sports much or anything like that, but that is one type of game. So I don't even like watching people play games much. I want to play them myself, but it is one genre where it is like it's thoroughly impressive to watch people do this. Like how they even are able to keep their brain that far ahead to do what they're doing. It's something else.
It requires like a repetition. I mean, literally, it feels like how you practice to learn a language, because you have to remember where certain attacks are coming from. You have to remember how to dodge in certain areas, which polarity to switch to, and you have to remember this going through like the first level, then the second, then the third, and you got to hope things go well once you get to the end of certain ones where like this is where it often gets hard, and if I am in a bad spot when I get to this point in the level, it's probably over. It's really crazy.
Yeah, no,
it's really crazy.
100%. I still have only ever played that game just like the slightest amount. I've always wanted to. I wish I would have picked it up when they did that second print of it. For some reason, I didn't. On Switch.
For the listeners, Ikaruga is a GameCube classic. So from way back,
and I think before that it was even on Dreamcast in Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I think the first time it came to America was on GameCube.
Yeah,
but don't quote me on that.
I'd like to get it on the GameCube physical. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I want to buy that version. I just always put it off.
Yeah, and the music's pretty fire too. So
fire. Well, how about that? And that was it. Yeah,
that's pretty much all I've been playing. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll go next. So for me, it's kind of been busy the last couple months. So once I've said this before, but once I finished Rebirth, it's been hard to. My time seems to have gone out the window. Work's been busy, and I've been working 2 jobs, so it's been really, really tight. But when I have extra time, I have been playing a few things. I always go back to Apex Legends because I love that game, even though it also infuriates me. But the important things that I've been playing is a couple weeks ago, I couldn't sleep. It was a Saturday night, and I was just like, wasn't tired. And I was like, man, I'm not just going to lay here. So I was like, I'm going to play something. So I was like, you know what? I want to play SteamWorld Dig, which I played before, beaten before. But one of the trophies in that game is to beat it in under 2.5 hours. So I was like, I'm just going to try to do it. You know, like not going to do anything slick or anything. It's been a while since I played it. So I'm just going to run through it and see if I can get it. And there's a couple other trophies I didn't have too. So I was like, I'll see what I can do. So I did. I blew through the game, but I ended up, it was just shy of 3 hours that it took me to beat it. So I didn't get that trophy. But the point being is as I was playing through it again, I was just like, man, I love this game. Like, once again, SteamWorld Dig, Metroidvania. It's a Metroidvania style game.
But such a different kind of
it is, because it's very... Normally, in most of those, it's very platform heavy. We go basically left to right. You know, this game you're going down almost across the board. You're digging, and you're finding you find caves to go in where you do a little bit more normal platforming type stuff where you use more abilities. But I don't know how to explain it other than like there's something about this world where it's just it's robots.
Yeah.
It's like a post-apocalyptic type world where there's nothing but robots left, everything, and they have their own personalities and stuff, and it's become a universe now. I've talked about SteamWorld Heist in the past. SteamWorld Dig 2 I've talked about before too, which I love that game too, but in a weird sense, in every measure of the word, SteamWorld Dig 2 is the better game. But I like the first one more.
Really?
Because of the simplicity of it.
Interesting.
It's so straightforward, and the fact that both of them can be beat really quickly, but there's something about how just like simple this game is and how easy it is to just be like, I was able to do that, and I just want to run through it. And like I didn't have to remember much as I got the upgrades and stuff. Like it came back to me really quickly. It's just a very rewarding game, and it's become over the years one of my like comfort games where like I said, it was I wasn't having like a bad night or anything, but I was just like, I want to think. Like I just want to play something that is comfortable, and that's what I was drawn to.
Yeah.
I love that game. It's a game that I highly recommend to anybody who likes that genre. Yep. It's like a Metroid. It's like if Metroid and Dig Dug had a baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is a weird combination, but
which still doesn't make any sense. Like when you're like trying to explain it, you're like, that is weird.
Yeah, I mean half the
but
people.
But it's wonderful.
Yeah,
made it work.
I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what Dig Dug is anymore. But the point is, like, it's really good, and it goes on sale a lot. It's on Switch. It's on everything. It doesn't. I don't think there's a console you can't get it on that has a online store, but it's cheap. Like it goes on sale. I think it's like a $10 game, but it goes on sale for like $1, $2 pretty regularly. So like I think it's probably one of the most underrated universes out there right now as far as what they're doing with it. Because SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2 were both Metroidvania style games. Then SteamWorld Heist is a tactical RPG. And then SteamWorld Build, which I still haven't played, is like a RTS world builder. So like they all have like this very unique feel. And then there's the other one, SteamWorld Tower. It's a tower defense game, but they're all like part of the same universe, even if you don't see the same characters in each of them. Like it's all intertwined, and I think it's pretty darn impressive. Hand of Gilgamesh is the other one, where it's a card based like action RPG. Like and I haven't played that either. Like I've appreciated the series. I played SteamWorld Dig for the first time like 10 years ago, and I loved it then. But until SteamWorld Dig 2 a couple years ago, where I finally got the itch to play that and played through it, I just ignored the series. But I think it's a very underappreciated universe. There's a lot of quality in here.
Well, that's very fascinating. They're really expanding upon not just the same formula, but going to different routes. So that makes it really unique.
Yeah. Because most don't do that. They say Metroid, I mean, it's one of the even more obscure ones in the fact that it left platforming to become a first-person shooter platformer. But for the most part, like everything stays in its respective zone. Like
what's the development team called again? Do you remember?
Off the top of my head, no, but I do know it. I can look it up.
You look it up, but I mean, I got stuff to say because I couldn't agree more. This is actually one of the few told you so moments I have with Chris in video games, because I remember playing it on my 3DS. I remember reading about it on IGN. I was at work. I downloaded it on my 3DS at work on a slow day, and I probably played through at least half of it that very same day, SteamWorld Dig. And I remember texting you immediately. I was like, dude, you got to play this game. It's cheap and it's really good.
All right.
And like he said, it's just this weird... It's this weird amalgamation of genres that doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't do it justice to call it a Metroidvania because it's just so weird and unique. But it's really good, and like you said, like the dev team, they got chops, man. They've shown that, like
Image and Form.
Like follow them, like them, subscribe, review, rate and review.
I will be following your career with great interest.
They have the chops. They've shown versatility. They're not afraid to try and dabble in different genres, like you said. I've only played the Digs and I've played Heist, but they're all really good. All those games have been critically acclaimed. Like they have great reviews and ratings.
And it's obvious that people buy them, or else they wouldn't be able to keep putting out games. But nobody talks about them.
Yeah, and
that's what I've come to like realize is like I know a lot of people have played them, but I'm just curious as to why there's not more chatter about it, because I don't know, my appreciation has changed, and it even just in this last year has changed more, because when I played through 2, I was like, man, I hate that I waited so long to play this, because I didn't play it for like 3 years after it came out.
Yeah.
But once I started playing Heist this year, I was like, man, they really are good at this. And like, it's just a great they're a great team. Like,
they're really good.
Really quality stuff.
Super solid. Highly recommended. I don't know how this became a Metroidvania episode, but it has. Highly recommend that. Highly recommend Prince of Persia. Metroid Dread, I've gushed about that for years.
Have you guys heard of Hollow Knight?
Yeah, Hollow Knight's like probably strangely the most popular of all these games.
I don't know how it got so big, but I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
So I guess I know how. I'm surprised it got so big, because it's Dead Souls meets Metroidvania. It's crazy hard.
For all the people that have played all or any of these games, if you've played some of these games or one of these games, you will like all the other ones. Even they're all very different from each other.
Yeah, it's just a genre that's on fire right now.
It's just such a good time for it, and I would love to I'm gonna go post episode. I'm gonna probably go through and rank these myself just in my head.
Have a nice little, so you can forget it in 6 months.
So I can forget it in 6 months. Yeah, maybe I'll post it on the Discord.
You
so
should
I can search it later.
You need to write it down somewhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, I shout out to that game and that company again. But like, if you haven't played it, literally, it's cheap and it's not a long commitment. So I highly recommend the first one to anybody. And then most people will then play the second one and like it even more, which I did too. But it's a weird thing in my brain where something about the first one I like more, but it's not the better game. Like we'll sit here forever and say that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
but yeah, hard to agree on those games. They're so good.
Basically, the only other thing I've really been playing has been recently I started playing through Pokemon Crystal on my 3DS. And there's a few reasons why. One is, as I've talked about before, I want to do a ribbon journey, and afraid that at some point they're going to shut down the Pokemon box on the 3DS, which for some reason they haven't already.
It's inevitable.
Eventually.
But it is inevitable. But I watched a YouTube video. So, well, let me rewind for a second. About a year ago, I started playing through Crystal because I downloaded it just before the eShop shut down. And I saw soft resetted for my shiny, for a starter to be shiny at the beginning. I did Totodile. So, like, I did all that already, like, a year ago. And I played, I think, the first 2 gyms, and I don't know, I fizzled out. Like, I got distracted, whatever. But I watched a YouTube video this about a week ago, and it was about things like Pokemon, whether it be specific Pokemon or abilities or whatever, that are going to be locked in the past once the Pokemon box goes away. And is that right? Pokemon box?
Yeah, Pokemon box.
There was some box in the bank. Bank was the last one.
Pokemon Bank.
Bank.
I was like, I have Pokemon box.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Once Pokemon Bank goes away.
Yeah.
So, and then one of them in Crystal was the fact that it's the only legal way outside of an event that you can soft reset for a shiny Mew. Because in the game, in Japan, in Crystal, there was an event that happened at the end of the game where you get what's called the GS ball that you could then take, or you can take something to Kurt. He makes that ball, which then unlocks an event where you can catch Mew in the Ilex Forest. That wasn't in the English version of the game for some reason, but in this port on the 3DS, they put it in both, and it's also accessible after the Elite Four, so it's earlier too. Like, why they made all these changes for a ROM is strange to me, but whatever. I'm not complaining. So you can get it, and you can soft reset for a shiny one. So I'm just like, I feel like I would be dumb not to do that because I care. Like, if somebody doesn't care, then why do it? But I do care. I'm like, that's cool. I want this, basically exclusive Mew that you can only get from this gen. So it's kind of started me back on my ribbon journey again. I'm probably going to play through XD again so I can get the Lugia off of there, and pick a new actual ribbon journey mon, since that all went down the toilet because of a dead battery in Emerald. But
that's right.
Rip
is for real. But so I've kind of got a roadmap planned out for that. I'm probably going to skip the beauty contest stuff, because I just don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
I've done it all once.
Was that more painful even than the battle tower was?
It's boring.
Emerald. It's just really boring.
Yeah. The battle tower sucks because it's so dang
up.
hard, but yeah, the beauty contest is just, it's so boring. It's monotonous. Like, I remember one day I had my Game Boy with me and I was at your house. I remember sitting there and just being like, I'm doing this contest again, like, because it's just a crap. Your Pokemon only know so many. The move pool is so small in those games. You have to teach them stupid moves that are completely useless, just so you can try to luck your way into a win, because you still aren't going to outperform usually. Anyway, it's a whole nother story for another time.
Yeah, that's layers and
that
layers.
Nobody cares about. So, but anyway, I've been playing through Crystal, and man, it's gotten me thinking more about like what my top 10 games of all time are, because I freaking love this game. Like, it's amazing to me that this game is 25 years old and was on the Game Boy Color and is still as good as it is. Because other than my only real complaint, the only thing that I'm like 100%, this is better in the new gens, and like it makes this game feel a little bit lesser in comparison, is how easy it is to use HMs now. Like, you don't have to have a Pokemon specifically to learn strength just because you don't want to teach one of your main Pokemon strength.
You don't need an HM slave.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrible.
And I have 3 Pokemon in my party that are literally just taking up spots for cut, strength, and something else, because I don't have Fly, because I don't have a bird Pokemon currently. So I'm like, ugh, it's like. There's 100,000 quality of life improvements over the years, but that's the one to me that is 100% like,
it's egregious.
I hate this right now.
It's amazing they didn't consider this when they were developing the game, because in games that are otherwise really, really, really good.
Because otherwise, like, I don't have any qualms with it. I think I would be shocked if somebody who liked Pokemon now but never played it could go back and be like, oh yeah, this game sucks. Like, I think everybody would still like it. I feel like it holds up.
It still holds up. Yeah.
Which, of course, there's a little bit of nostalgia goggle, but like, I think it's great. I've been really enjoying it. Like, I'm looking forward to finishing it, and I don't know why, but I do look forward to soft resetting for my Mew. Like, I do that very mindlessly in between like matches of Apex and stuff when I'm playing that.
You can watch TV or something.
Yeah, it's just something that it's just a time kill. But
when you're talking about the shiny Mew, I was watching those like Shiny Hunters, and I think it also do it in Heart of Gold, Soul of Silver.
Oh,
I think
can you?
there's an exploit where it's just within the game, glitching the game out to get, I think is it the old map or something for that event. And so you can, if you have those games, even if you just have a regular game where there's this exploit, so you get that item, and then you can also do shiny hunting for
So
the
you
Mew
can
that
do
way.
it. It's just
Yeah.
you need an exploit.
No exploit. So it's just within the game. It's just doing like those glitches, like within the game. You
Oh,
do these
gotcha,
certain
gotcha.
series of things, and then
Okay, because I don't think he mentioned that in the video, but maybe he didn't know it. But it's nice to know there's another option at least.
I specifically remember because then he also after that went for Shiny Deoxys. So he first did the Mew after doing those exploits. Like you get certain items, you do certain things, and then you're able to get that item, that old map or whatever that leads be able to take you there. You could do the beginning of the game like within the really quick. So it's like that's another option for whatever reason doesn't
Yeah.
work out.
That's super cool. I'm glad to know
Apparently, it's
that.
not hard to do. You just have to follow the instructions. I mean, it's a lot easier than what was that Mew on red, blue, and yellow?
Oh yeah,
I've done that. Like, I'll never do it again. That's just too complicated.
Is that the Gold Nugget Bridge one? Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, well, that one, and then you have to change. Like, I'm trying to remember all the items. You have to get certain items, then it's able to change the name of the Mew, the trainer name. So then it's GF or Game Freak.
Oh.
And so then you're able to trade it, make it a legit
Oh,
trade.
yeah.
It's not worth it.
Oh,
But like
so-
that's better. What you're doing, that's a lot better.
So you're saying that Mew that you could get with the red blue
It could trade.
glitch or whatever was not tradable?
It wasn't tradable. It had to have the GF, the Game Freak.
Because I remember I learned about that one relatively recently, and on my playthrough of Red, digitally on my 3DS,
Yeah.
it was incredible to me that this has been built into the game since the
Yep.
beginning, and they left it in for the digital version, which was really cool because I got to try it, and it's like you could starting in Cerulean City, you could have your playthrough with Mew in your party, which is like whoa. But I didn't know it wasn't tradable, so I can see the downside of that.
Yeah, it
It's
wasn't
not
tradable. So you had to do this glitches in order to change the glitches, exploits, so then it turns the trainer. And then you're able to trade, then you have a shiny all the way back from that, but
Yeah.
it's complicated.
Listeners, people that love Pokemon want to. It sounds bad. We want to own our Pokemon. They're ours. We love them. We want to take them with us wherever we go in the future to other games.
There are babies.
They're our babies, like Baby Brook.
That's right, Little Brook.
Same difference. My Vaporeon from
thing.
Black and White is just like Brook.
Exactly, 1-to-1.
What kind of trainer will Brook be? That's the question.
Well, I guess it's going to first start which Pokemon she chooses from the plushes. That will be the first start, right?
You would think water based on the name, for sure.
That's
but-
true.
Ooh, good question.
Just move it in front of her, even if she's not going for it. You gotta take Squirtle. Sorry, girl.
Bulbasaur.
No.
Wrong.
No.
Wait, but I would approve of her more if she chose Bulbasaur. So
Don't choose
And that's-
Bulbasaur.
Now you're gonna tell her not to.
Yeah, Bulbasaur's off the table. Sorry.
I used to like Bulbasaur, but then Jimmy likes it. So
You're
now
just
I
gonna
hate
bring Charmander and Squirtle to the party. Wait, where's the green one?
Doesn't exist.
it. What green one?
All right, Jarrett, what have you been playing?
Well, with the newborn, you have a lot of free time, a lot of extra time. But I was able to play today. I brought my Switch, and then during lunch, able to play games because it's amazing what little time you have. But I have been playing I'm playing the 64 game, which I'm going to not talk about since we'll be doing that list. But before that, I did order, what was it, the 5-in-1, like the Star Wars where it had Pod Racer,
Oh, the Heritage
Commando.
pack?
Yeah, for $40 off Amazon. So it's like, okay, I'm going for that.
Nice.
I did. So
Hey, did you end up buying that, James?
No, I forgot.
You fool.
I got distracted by. I went to like.
We're not listening to him anymore.
I went
Jarrett.
to
Go
like
ahead.
Disneyland right after that episode, and I forgot. Now I regret it, and I'm sure the deal is gone. But
I mean, it might go on sale again at some point.
I hope
but
so.
it might. I'm sure it will.
Black Friday, baby.
Black Friday. So I did that one. So I did a little Commando and then Pod Racer. And it's like, I remember the Pod Racer like as a kid. So I played a bit of that one night. So played a little bit of that, a little bit of online. But that's about it because a lot of free time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes perfect sense, and I get it.
In your small time with Commando, did it live up to the hype, even though it was just a little bit you played? Do you know?
I think kind of a yes or no because I also had it a long time ago on the PC, and of course, mouse and keyboard is easier than
Oh,
controller.
there
So
you
it's
go.
like one of those. Okay, it's kind of fun, but it's not as good as just for the controller
I feel
setup.
like
That'd
if
be
you
the only
experienced
thing.
it first on mouse and keyboard, that'd probably be like, yeah, what feels right.
Yeah, that's the only. That would be the only knock. 'Cause like, and that's nothing against the game itself. Like it runs fine and all that. It's just the mouse and keyboard for that kind of a game is easier.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
But
that makes
it
sense.
plays. I mean, it was playing fine. Like there is no glitchy or frame rate issues. Like it was like what I remembered back in the day, but definitely it's hard to go back on the mouse keyboard back in the day.
For first-person shooters, mouse and keyboard is like, it's the best. But at the same time, I've gotten so used to doing it on a controller, I don't know how easily, if it would transition as easy as I remember it. Probably would.
I don't know if it'd be better if it had the motion control, like if it would help. I don't know. Anything like Splatoon, I don't know.
Yeah, motion control, and like games like Splatoon really frustrates me, so I turned it off.
Yeah. Well, Jarrett, the best way to get more game time in is as she gets a little older, just continue to put controllers into her hand.
There we go.
And then you'd be like, Kim, I'm sorry, I have to play. She really wants to play.
It's bonding
Pokemon
time
again.
That's right. We gotta play again.
And that'll be perfect.
By this time, Gen 10 and Pokemon will have a co-op mode where you can play together at the same time.
But not online, because they don't like
not
the online.
And oh man, I can't imagine what co-op would do to make it all crazy buggy. With Game Freak's reputation right now.
Oh, boy.
Game Freak.
Oh, no.
Get your act together.
Oh, no.
Fix it.
Fix it now. License.
All right. So we've talked about what we've been playing. So now we're going to go ahead and move into the main topic. And for that, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, we're going to talk about our top 10 lists of Nintendo 64 games. So this is each of us are going to go, starting at 10, we'll take turns going through our lists of our personal top 10 lists. So these are completely and utterly subjective. That's the right word, right?
Subjective.
Yeah. Well, they're subjective, I guess, by definition, but I feel like some of these decisions are objective.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
they should be.
But I mean,
I get what you're saying.
we could have the same top three, but knowing my top three, we don't.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, like it is, or at the end of the day, even if we all had the same list across the board, none of us are saying without a fact that these are the top 10 games for the 64. We thought about doing that episode, but it was a little too hard to. There's the 64 library has too many games.
How many did we determine it was again?
291? 296.
296.
296.
296 in the U.S. and 388 in Japan.
Oof. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a big library, and it just wouldn't be there. It's almost impossible to have the same top 10, even if they're similar.
So we're whittling it down to each of our individual top 10 N64 games out of 300. I can't tell you how hard this was. I went through every single game on the library.
Yeah. So
no, I didn't.
So hashtag he's lying.
Before we get started, paint, if you will, a picture. The two of us embraced in a kiss. Sorry, that was Prince. But
yeah. Well played.
It's so easy. Like thinking back, 1996. Picture, if you will, a young Chris Perry, little body, giant head,
wearing a hat. You always wear hats.
I always wore hats.
Yeah, yes.
And I don't think I even knew what the future held. Like the Nintendo 64 was a pipe dream. Like the Super Nintendo was so great. I was so happy with that. All I wanted was a Genesis because I wanted to play Sonic the Hedgehog. But I'll never forget. I'm not going to get into this too much because I feel like it'll get talked about more as we talk about our lists. But I'll never forget that first time seeing Mario 64 on a console and how mind blown I was. Yeah. I will die on the hill that no matter, I wish every gamer could have experienced that transition the way that those of us, I guess, in that millennial age were able to experience in the mid 90s. Because going from Super Nintendo to 64, and even if I'm just using as examples, Chrono Trigger looks leaps and bounds better than Mario 64 now. It's because of the age, but that's not the point. The point isn't the graphics of it. The point is the expansiveness of the world that we got with Mario 64 and multiple games on the console that we didn't have before.
Yeah. It changed everything, dude. It changed everything. We've talked about, I mean, it's well established, right? Like, if you go through a list of the best consoles of all time, Super Nintendo's high on that list with a lot of people, maybe everyone. When the N64 dropped, Super Mario 64 with it, we immediately forgot about everything else that had come before.
Wait, what's a Super Nintendo?
Ultimately, we came back to the games we love on Super Nintendo.
But in that moment,
nothing else mattered.
I just remember the Nintendo Power magazine whenever they're doing the glimpses and they started talking about that was always so exciting.
Yeah.
What's the next month? Come on, ready for the next magazine.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
There was hype. I don't remember it greatly because my memory is really bad, but I remember a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember the feeling.
Yeah. And I mean, it was unmatched. And, nowadays we don't have the graphical enhancements that we had then. Because even 64 PS1 to GameCube, PS2 was a huge jump.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's much more small in comparison. But yeah, the 64 is a console that a lot of us hold very closely to our hearts, especially if you grew up with it or around it. I feel like it really left an impact. But that's why I think the conversation started on Discord where we started talking about our favorite games and everything, and that's why we decided, let's just do this. Let's talk about our top 10s and go from there. And I got a lot of listener feedback, too, on their own personal lists. Everything from just their favorite game to the top 3, top 5, and even a couple top 10s. So we'll go through that at the end. So let's go ahead and start off with our 10th pick each, and let's start with Jarret. Ooh. So what was your number 10 on the list?
So number 10, this is one where I updated it today because it was from when I was been slowly playing and finally finished today. And so it's one of those where it's a situation where, of course, as a kid, you didn't play all the games. I mean, there's those handful, a chunk of them, or go to a friend's house. But this is one of those that had the Donkey Kong Country 3 situation similar, where the timing of it, where it was released the time when the GameCube was released. And that is Paper Mario.
Oh, nice.
February 5th, 01. So this wasn't on my list because when making this list, even though I probably could next week change a little bit more, or maybe in a couple of months change it again. But I was trying to focus on games I either owned, played fully, or at least 90% of it where I had a good feel for, as opposed to going to a friend's house and playing some multiplayer games where there's games that aren't on my list that should be on, like, quote unquote, should be from objective, subjective, but since I never owned it or really played it, so I try to constrain myself to that. So
yeah, it's a personal list, so it makes sense. Like, I think we're all going to surprise people a little bit with some of our entries on this list.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My list is 100% games that I've played. Maybe I didn't own, but I played enough where, like, I love this game for one reason or another.
For sure.
So I'm right there with you.
And I don't know, I can't speak for you guys, but this was painful, wasn't it? Like, surprisingly painful to, like, pick some games over other games.
Yep.
Yeah, when not to interrupt you too much, but
Sorry,
just on
Jarret.
that note,
No, please.
when I wrote down my list, I just wrote down all the games where I'm like, I love that game. I love that game.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah,
all the 64 games, and then I came up with, just to start with, 25 games. Of games that I really enjoy one way or another. So I was like, okay, I have to be, like, first step was, like, be honest with myself. What are the games that, like, if somebody said, you want to play this right now, I'd probably say no. And I went through that and I cut it down to 15. So then it became like, okay, now what do I do? Because I was like, I have to sit down and cut this down. And I was able to, and I'm pretty confident with my top 10, but kind of like what you were saying, there's probably a little flexibility in, like, the 10-9 area as far as, you know, them maybe moving around, moving out, other things moving in. But I think the rest of it is pretty solid. But anyway, back to you, Jarret.
Yeah, and so I never played Paper Mario. I think I've heard of it years later, but I think it's the same vibe of the next system was coming. That came out, I think, within months of...
Same year.
It was within the same year, because it was 2001, and I think GameCube was 2001,
I think it was fall.
I think so. It was relatively soon, so you're kind of saving up for that, like the next system. And it's funny, I laugh at myself as, you know, my favorite game of all time, Super Mario RPG, where this is kind of the spiritual successor. Yeah. And I just never played it, never owned it. But then again, there's probably plenty of games I never played or owned that. But now with the N64 online, be able to play that, it's like, okay, I got to play that, and I've seen it. And the playing's like, I understand, like, I like that a lot, because I liked it wasn't trying to be too similar to Mario RPG, because I read the history behind it, where the team split, and I mean, so now it's Nintendo doing that, where it had similarities, but it was also its own thing, had its own personality, but still retained there's characters, not just the samey, which is kind of unfortunately been going on, personally, just for me, going on with Paper Mario, where it's not really expanding upon unique characters, just kind of all the same. But this, we had just a variety of different unique things, and so the combat was good, fun little story, had, you know, personality and style, easy to play, and I just had a good time. So it's one of those, if I didn't play it, since I wouldn't have been able to put it on the list, but it probably could move up over all these. But since it's just such a recent thing, I'd have to let that sit in a little bit. But it probably could be a little bit higher, but since I just played it, just beat it today, so...
Yeah, so it's fresh, so you don't want to do recency bias, but it's interesting, because that's how things work. You have to sit on it some for it to, like, truly settle in its place in your gaming, you know, history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't say what position, though I won't talk about it much when we get to it because of that, but I have it on my list as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, and it's I agree. Like, it came out at just the right time. Like, it came out for me at the point where I was already like really getting into RPGs. So like I was excited because I'd already played Mario RPG and loved it in the day, but at this point I'm getting into Final Fantasy and stuff. And like I was a big fan of this game. I think the only reason I rated it where I did was just because it's been a while since I played it. Like, it's not super fresh, and I only played through it once. So like it's not a game I played through multiple times, but it's really one of the only RPGs on the console, and it's the only turn-based RPG on the console that I can think of. Like, I could be wrong. But yeah, it's an absolutely great game. And correct me if I'm wrong here, if you know this, but you mentioned Mario RPG, and I did read when I was doing some research for this that it did start off where it was going to be Mario RPG 2, and it was being made for the disk drive, the 64 disk drive. But then when the disk drive failed, they scrapped the idea completely and moved to Paper Mario.
They changed it to Paper Mario because they were still going to retain Super Mario RPG 2, but they want to avoid any battles with Square during that time. So they changed the name just for that. It was originally going to be, and it was advertised as Mario RPG 2, but just to avoid any issues with Square, then they changed to Paper Mario.
Yeah,
it was an ugly divorce. It's one of the reasons there isn't almost any RPGs on the 64.
Yeah,
because they basically had a falling out with Square and a number of other companies that were. This was the beginning of no third-party support for Nintendo, basically.
This was the beginning of people saying that Nintendo can be extremely stubborn.
Yes, and they in the big picture, Nintendo paid the price for it. Kind of.
The 64 era for sure.
Yeah.
Even the GameCube a little bit. They didn't recover.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So good 10th pick.
That's a good.
It's good.
Then.
It's a good spot on anybody's list.
That's a really good. I was wondering where it would. I was like, it has to fall on Jarrett's list. It has to. But where's it going to be? So.
But yeah, if I didn't play it, started playing it, just. I never had the experience, but I just had to. I think it was we were doing that Mario RPG episode. We were talking about playing some of those other games where I played Mario and Luigi, but Paper Mario never did. And once it was available, it's like, okay, I've been slowly playing it, and so finally got through it today.
And now you can play Thousand Year Door pretty easily.
Ooh,
That'll be the next
Did you
one.
buy it yet?
I will eventually. It's definitely far in between playing games and stuff, so I'm just going to wait for a little bit. But I do have. I think it was you who posted that. I remember what deal it was, but like a $25 gift card for GameStop, or maybe it was someone else. Someone posted something like, "Oh, if you
the
did
Comcast
this
one."
Yeah,
Yeah,
Comcast.
that was sweet, dude. It's still sitting in my Apple Wallet right now.
So I still got just kind of sitting.
I used it like the next day.
Well, Esme, you buy lots of games, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, James, what's your number 10?
Number 10. This may shock some people, honestly. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. It might shock people at this table.
Oh, I'm ready to be shocked.
You ready to be
I've
shocked?
got my shocked face ready to go.
I'm honestly curious if this is going to surprise Chris. All right, guys, here it goes. Drum roll. Here comes number 10.
He's holding his chest.
Gosh.
Number 10.
Oh, gosh.
This was a pain. It almost didn't make it, but it made it. Number 10. WWF. No Mercy. No joke. No Mercy it's a banger, dude. It's such a good game. It's a really good game. Okay, so this game came out November 16th, 2000. Like, back end, late life cycle of N64. Now, for those who aren't aware, this was an era that, when professional wrestling, if you want to call it that, was like, this is considered like the gold era of professional wrestling. I think there's actually a name for it, like the Attitude Era or something like that. Like heavy hitters, like The Rock was in his prime. Big names like Chris Jericho, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Kane, Undertaker. Like, I can go on forever. Like, and that's not including like the tag team guys like the Hardy Boys and like Christian and Edge, and like there was, dude, I can go on.
Yeah, they watched a lot of wrestling at this time.
At this point in my life, I remember being so into wrestling, and I wasn't alone. Like, I think if you look back to like this was
hugely
this was
popular
I mean, it's still really popular nowadays, but I feel like this was maybe the peak popularity too, like the peak viewership, and like, I don't know. It is considered by a lot of people the golden era of wrestling. And so there was a lot of video games that got released at the time that were wrestling games. That doesn't happen a whole lot anymore. You still get them, but nowhere.
You only get the WWE games now, one a year.
Yeah. So what made this one so special? It had to do with that. It had to do with the era of wrestling. the fighting mechanics were really, really simple in this game. Like nowadays, if you play a wrestling game, it's almost like a sports sim in that like it's complicated. You almost have to like learn how to play it, learn like kind of complicated combos to like do grapples and to do like their signature moves, which, let's be real, in the end, all you really want to do is your favorite wrestler's signature move on your friends. Like that's literally what these games are all about. Like that's why you play them. And so like it wasn't difficult even for like a casual, like a friend could come over and if they knew anything about The Rock at the time, they could be like, I want to rock bottom somebody. How do I do it? Like you could figure it out and like just like that. There was like these energy bars that you built up, and then it was like special available to you. Like I don't know, it was almost like a building up to a Smash Ball or something in Smash, if that makes any sense at all. But
Okay, yeah, I can picture that.
the first player campaign, if you want to call it that, was really, really good. Way better than a lot of the other ones at the time. So good that to this day it's kind of like the gold standard. Like wrestling, I think AEW is like a different wrestling faction, modern day one, and like one of their selling points for the game was, we're modeling this game after No Mercy. Like they're talking about a game that's decades old. Like in terms of wrestling video games, this is considered like one of the best ever, if not the best, by many, many people. It was one of the rare like 4-player games that didn't require a split screen. We played a number of wrestling games together growing up, and like that was one of the cool things always, was that no split screen was required. So yeah, like it made it more of like a clean, I don't know, experience visually, and everybody shared the screen together. There was customization in the multiplayer that was really cool. You could play like tables, ladders, and chairs matches, or you had like the belt hanging up over the middle of the ring, and the goal is to get a ladder underneath it, climb up it, pull the belt down, and you win. And like to get to that point, that was really, really hard because there's like a bunch of people vying for the same thing. Like it's just like what would happen on screen, in actual WWF matches. But it was just a really, really fun game. Just a blast with friends. To this day, it's really good. I do wonder what the price is physical for this, because it makes me want to go back and buy it.
Yeah, you should. I don't think it's too expensive, but I mean,
I remember it was a black cartridge. It was a black cartridge from what I remember.
That sounds right.
But yeah, in terms of wrestling games, guys, this is the one.
Yeah, I don't follow wrestling. Never really have. I wasn't allowed to watch it when I was a kid, but and then as an adult, I've just never gotten into it. But I do know that a lot of people that I've heard talk about wrestling games, this is always highly on their lists, all across the board. There's a few others that are also there, like one of the ones on GameCube is apparently really good. And I remember playing this game at your house too, and it was a ton of fun. Like the laughs that you get when you're playing this game too, like it was just like the crazy things you could do to each other, and the yelling we would have at each other.
Oh man!
I know the specific memories I have of a wrestling game tend to fall towards NCW versus NWA. Not NWA.
WCW versus NWO. Is that what it was?
That's right.
I remember that.
NCA is a rap group
because we had like Hulk Hogan and like I can't remember the guy's name. All these guys.
Sting was on the front of that one.
Sting was on the front. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, no, it was a fun multiplayer game. I remember that.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah, I just all these memories of like, my mom was working for the census at the time. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember she came to our school and they explained why the census mattered, and we're all like, nah.
We don't care. We're kids.
We're 12.
I just remember like one of the people that was like the leaders in her census, I don't know, group or whatever of the area, the local one. We'd go to their house because they had meetings there. And that lady always had wrestling on in the background. And she always had she'd always center the census meetings around like big WWF events. So it was like, for some reason, whenever we go there for events, it was like SummerSlam or Royal Rumble or WrestleMania. And I was like, I always couldn't wait to go to these census meetings.
Let's go!
Because I was like, I get to watch the matches that are, my parents would never pay money to watch, because it was always on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I think it still is to this day, maybe. They probably have a streaming network at this point, but...
Yeah, wrestling's one of the few things I really don't know much about. I could name a bunch of wrestlers, especially from that time frame, but I don't know much about it. But
that's the thing, is even casuals recognize faces from this era.
I mean, who doesn't know The Rock?
Of wrestling, yeah.
At this point, I bet more people don't even know The Rock was a wrestler than recognize him as a wrestler. But
yeah. So, that number 10, it was not an easy choice, but I'm glad you made it in. No Mercy.
Thank you, No Mercy.
No Mercy.
Thank you for not showing mercy to James and showing up on his list.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 10 pick. I'm curious if this is on either of your lists. I don't believe it'll be on James's, but maybe Jarrett's. So for me, it came out on November 22nd, 1999, just in time for people to be thankful for its release, and that was Donkey Kong 64.
Nice.
Donkey Kong.
So fun fact, I did not get a 64 at launch. I desperately wanted a 64. But for whatever reason, I've probably told this story before on the podcast, but for whatever reason, we went to Toys R Us one day, not with the intent of buying a console or anything, but my mom saw The Lost World Jurassic Park on PlayStation. Some kid was playing as a T-Rex and blowing through the level and destroying buildings, and I don't know why. Knowing my mom, I don't understand why this was appealing to her, but for some reason, she saw this and was like, well, that's cool. My son should have that. So she bought me a PS1 and Jurassic Park, and to this point, never even heard of PlayStation. Mm-hmm. Like, I was 10, like, right around 9, 10. Like, I didn't know what it was. I didn't complain because I was like, oh, this game looks fun. Like, but I remember being disappointed I didn't have a 64, even though I had a lot of games on the PlayStation that I liked.
Yeah.
But right around the same time that I got a 64 was right around the same time I discovered Final Fantasy and changed my life going forward. Like, yeah. But that being said, about 2001 is when I finally got my 64. And the whole point of that whole story was because when I got my 64, it came with Donkey Kong 64. So even though I'd played plenty of games, I'd played Mario before at your house, at Nick's house, and we'd played all kinds of other stuff, and I was very familiar with and had a lot of love for a lot of the library already. My first 64 game was Donkey Kong 64.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And even though I can look at it now and objectively say this game is not better than Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, which are also collectathons. It was not Rare's best outing on the console. I have a lot of love for this game because first things first, it opens up with the DK rap. And that song, it's so corny and it's so good. Like, I love that. It's such a cool way to open a game.
It's iconic.
Also, yeah, and also in like 2000, like that's also when I was going through my very, very white boy hip hop phase, where I was like, anything rap was good to me. Like, so
doesn't matter where it comes from.
Doesn't matter if it's Donkey Kong or Eminem. I'm down. And 100% that was the case. Like, I think, okay, so just backtracking, it was 2000 because I was in 6th grade when I got it.
Okay.
I got the 64. But anyway, so yeah, Donkey Kong 64 was still new at the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you open up with that, and that was already a good way to start. And like, the game, Donkey Kong was always a game that I liked. Donkey Kong Country was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I already had love for Donkey Kong. But then being set in that same kind of open world environment that Mario did so well, and I'd played that at this point, Mario 64, was just very successful to me. And then adding things like abilities, weapons, his coconut gun could fire in spurts. Like, that was part of the rap, but that was the thing. Like, his gun, yeah, if it shoots you, it's gonna hurt. Yeah. Diddy Kong's peanut shooters. You had the two of them, but then you also had Chunky Kong, Tiny Kong, and Lanky Kong that all had their own weapons.
Lanky Kong is my goat
Lanky
right
Kong's
there.
the homie right there.
Makes sense.
The game was massive, and as a kid, that was great. Because, I didn't get games all the time. Like, by the time the 64 was over and I was on to the next console, I probably only ever got 5 games, if that. So, like, it was nice having a game this long. And I can see why it's a complaint to people now, because it is bloated. There is too much. Each character had, 5 golden bananas on each level they could collect, and there's, 20 levels. There's 200 total bananas that you can collect of the golden bananas. Yeah. So that's a lot. That is a lot of collecting, plus all the other side stuff you can collect. But I loved it. I loved the level designs. I loved the characters, all the different characters. I loved all their different abilities. I remember very clearly and very fondly, getting to the factory level and going up to the Donkey Kong arcade machine and playing the old school Donkey Kong. And I've always had a weakness for a game within a game, and that was just so cool to me that you could play the old school DK game on an arcade machine. You had to beat it to get one of the bananas to move on or whatever. I'll never say that it's a perfect game. I will never say it's Rare's best game on the console. But is it one of my personal favorites? Yes, it absolutely is.
I like it.
And there was something else that I wanted to say. Oh, it's interesting too because it was one of the first. It's one of the rare games. pun intended, that came to one of the rare first party games that came to America before it came to Japan. Just barely. It only beat it by a month, but that doesn't happen often.
Win's a win.
Yep. All right. And it is the first game to require the use of the red expansion
pack.
Yeah.
That game required expansion.
It
pack?
did.
It came with it because it was required.
This is gonna sound mean. I'm surprised. I don't feel like that's one of the ones you would think would have had the backing of expansion pack. Like it wasn't.
It required it, James.
It required.
I remember a lot of the games. Like I think the selling point of the expansion pack was Rogue Squadron, wasn't it? Like Rogue Squadron might have even come with the expansion pack. I can't remember.
Donkey Kong came with expansion pack.
Donkey Kong came
It
with
literally was the first
I
game
think I
to
remember that.
require the expansion pack, so it came with
honestly,
it.
that shocks me. Man, that's some crazy
It's
history.
because of how big it is. The game was so massive that I
so
think
it's
that's part of the reason why they
more to
had
do
to.
with memory than anything.
I think the expansion
Yes.
pack was just RAM, basically.
Because,
Oh, was it?
Yeah, but the
Oh.
game would not. It's one of 2 or 3 games that will not work without the expansion pack.
Yeah.
Other games like Rogue Squadron were enhanced with the expansion pack.
Yeah.
But I believe Donkey Kong, Perfect Dark, and Majora's Mask all required
I
it.
remember that now.
And
makes sense.
I can only say with 100% certainty Donkey Kong did, but I want to say Perfect Dark and Zelda also did. But there's probably a list there, and I did not think to look it up.
Perfect Dark especially makes sense to me. But
Yeah. But yeah, once again, I love this game. I think it's a lot of fun. It also had a multiplayer mode that was also a lot of fun because you used your different weapons.
most of my memories attached to this game are playing multiplayer with you and Jordan and having a blast.
Yeah.
Like, the multiplayer was great, I thought.
It was a lot of fun, and what was cool is the levels were unique to the multiplayer, which usually the case. But there was a lot of really hidden spots that you couldn't see that were hidden in the walls.
Yeah.
And well, this was fun for me because you guys didn't play it as much, so I'd go into those hidden spots and wait for you to kill each other off, and then just come up and clean up whatever was left. So cheesy much.
You bully. But you won, though. It's a good strat. That's a good strat. I respect that.
Strat's a strat.
Yeah, I respect it.
So if anyone wants to know about the expansion pack, so it is it's a RAM add-on. It adds an extra 4 megabytes of RAM during that time.
Oh, geez.
And it was required for 2 games, Donkey Kong and Majora's Mask.
Wow, not Perfect Dark. Interesting.
Without the add-on, most of Perfect Dark is inaccessible, including the single-player mode. It was also used in StarCraft 64 to unlock levels from the popular Brood War add-on. So when you were saying Rogue Squadron, I was like, I don't remember that. So it was required for those 2 games. Perfect Dark needed to unlock
Basically the majority of
it. The majority of it in StarCraft 64 for extra things.
So it's essentially required
and
for Perfect
enhanced
Dark.
other games, right? Like
I could look it up some more. So those were talking about the required.
I'm glad my brain was almost correct. No, just talking about is StarCraft 64 on either of you guys' list? I doubt it.
No.
So okay, it's not on mine either. But that game is a marvel. Like the fact that it is an RTS on a 64, and I was never very good at it, but my friend Chris Hartford and his brother were so dang good at that game. It was ridiculous. Like they really learned how to play it. I've always wanted to own that game so I could just play it and like be like, how does this exist? Like what a weird. And I did not know the expansion pack added Brood War levels. That's pretty cool.
That game was never even on my radar back in the day. I didn't even know it existed, I don't think. That's probably why I never played it.
It was a pretty late cycle game too, I think.
But yeah. That's very interesting, that expansion pack stuff, the history of it.
Yep. Yeah, so that's my number 10, Donkey Kong 64, my first personal 64 game.
Good selection. I like all of our selections so far, honestly.
Yeah, so far so good. And, and because I'll just go ahead and go next too with my number 9 because it'll be quick. Paper Mario was my number 9. Okay. So
makes sense.
It was this, like I said, these bottom 3 were probably the ones where I was like, I had to sit there and think for a while. The rest of the list was pretty solid. Like where they went exactly moved around, but they were going to be on the list regardless. These 3 I have a lot of love for, but I had to decide if the games that didn't make it were like I genuinely had a little less appreciation for, which was even hard. It's even hard to say that for a fact.
Yeah.
But Paper Mario made the list, and it made it just above Donkey Kong 64 just because of the simple fact that it was an RPG. It was a spiritual successor to Mario RPG.
Yep.
And I genuinely loved it. Like when I remember the feeling when I played it. For a little bit of backstory, not that anybody cares, but I was 13 years old when I got this game. And I had this was a gift from my parents because I just had radiation surgery on my brain because I had an aneurysm. So I remember I couldn't do anything for about a month. Like I was supposed to just sit at home. Because they couldn't risk my head getting jostled, like because things were whatever, a little loose up there. Probably explains a lot, but nonetheless, like I have a very fond memory of like this was the gift, and I remember sitting there and playing it, and just loving it and being like, wow, like this isn't Mario RPG, but it was so good in its own right. Like Mario RPG will always hold like very like if you put the two next to each other, like. I remember very clearly the music in Mario RPG. I can very clearly recount multiple different bosses and levels.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that's just because I've played it more. I do believe it's because it sat with me more. But this isn't a comparison of the two necessarily. Paper Mario, like I really loved the characters, the battle system. They held on to that timing system a little bit.
The timing, having the timing and the combat was just brilliant. Just keep that going. Somewhere along the way, they lost their way. But this one did not lose it.
Nope, it didn't. And I think one of my favorite things about this game, which it might sound a little weird, but the 64 in a lot of ways has not aged the most gracefully.
No,
and I think anybody would agree with that.
Yeah.
No matter even nostalgia glasses on, like it hasn't. Doesn't mean some of the games still aren't great, but Paper Mario is one of the rare games on the console that still looks fantastic, and plays fantastic too. But the graphically, because of the paper cutout look that they went with, it still looks great, and not a lot of 64 games can truly say that. Yeah. So
I would agree.
It did age pretty well.
Yeah, a lot of respect for what they pulled off. I need to play Thousand Year Door because I've never played it.
Same.
I've started it once because somebody let me borrow it, but I never played it. So
we all will soon.
Yep.
Ish.
It is on my list this year. So that was my number 9. So Jer Bear, what was your number 9?
So number 9 is a game that came out on November 24th, 1997. Connected to your number 10 in a sense is Diddy Kong Racing.
Nice.
I did enjoy that game a lot where you had the 3 different vehicles, right? Cart, plane, and
like the hover boat.
Hover boat. And what was neat about that is I would say like Mario Kart maybe has the better tracks or maybe more polished, but what was nice about this is you had the variety of different vehicles, but also the single player aspect of it. There's a story part, there's like progression, so it made it fun in that sense. And it was just really neat to play with the different vehicles and the levels were all fun, the different styles and whatnot. But I just remember that's like so much fun because Diddy Kong from Donkey Kong Country, and then we got the little hint for Banjo on there.
That was his first cameo.
That was his first cameo,
Nice.
Yeah, first one. So then we got a game from him. That's right. So good times. I remember playing that a lot. It was a great game.
Yeah, this is an odd game for me because it didn't make my list, but only because of nostalgia. I have more nostalgia for other games on the list.
Fair.
But this game, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But compared to Mario Kart 64, it's the better game. It really is. Like, but it didn't make my list just because I played it a lot less. So I never owned it. Fair. I own it now, but I haven't played it much since I've actually owned it. But as a kid, I never owned it. I don't remember. Did you own it?
We owned it. We owned it, played it, loved it. Didn't play it as much as Mario Kart 64, and I'm not sure why exactly, but very fond memories of this game. It was super creative, especially compared to Mario Kart 64.
Yeah, the story mode, like you said, that story mode, and then
it added so much.
What, the bonus mode too, where you would do those challenges, or where it had the grid where you had all the levels you could unlock.
Wasn't the big bad he was a pig? Or
Whiz-Pig, right?
Whiz-Pig,
yeah. And I remember just traversing through like you wouldn't call it an overworld, but
it's basically an overworld or hub world, I guess.
Hub world,
I'd say hub world.
The big open area, and there were secrets and nooks and crannies in that area, and traversing it via water or air or car, it was just so cool. And you could I can't remember right now, could you switch basically seamlessly between the vehicles?
You had to pick at the beginning of the level.
At the beginning of the level?
You had to choose.
And it was a really good multiplayer game too, to boot. Like I honestly wish that Mario Kart today would have the campaign, the adventure, first player semblance of that this game had, and it just doesn't. And maybe that's how Mario Kart 9 moves the franchise forward.
What Diddy Kong Racing did 25 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it would be a leap forward, frankly.
No, you're right.
How do you I don't know, how do you separate yourself from Mario Kart 8, you know, like where everyone's here
man.
in the Smash Ultimate sense, you know, like
Yeah.
maybe moving towards Diddy Kong Racing is a way to do that because it was very creative. And it's underloved, sadly.
And the sad thing that most people don't know about Diddy Kong Racing is this was just before Conker's parents were killed, and he just became such an ass. He just became so jaded.
Conker
Life
was
is
in this
rough.
game too?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. This was basically Super Smash Brothers, but for Rare.
But it was the reverse.
Yeah.
But they made their characters famous afterwards.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
See, there was now you're making me think of the different racers. There's a Badger
oh, yeah.
character like I'm trying to remember the names. There was a Rooster,
I remember the Rooster. I remember Tip Top because he's who I
Tipped
always
Up
played.
is that a penguin?
He was a turtle.
Turtle. Oh, there wasn't a Kremlin. There was like a crocodile. Like I thought it was like a Kremlin, and I'm not saying it is a
I don't
Kremlin, but I
remember.
kind of remember it was
Yeah,
a
he looked
crocodile.
like
Like
it,
made
maybe.
me think of that because of Diddy.
Yeah, what was the rooster's name? Like I do remember the rooster.
Cockadoo. Was it?
Cockadoodle-doo.
It was something like that.
We got what we got? Diddy Kong, Tipped Up the Turtle, Pipsy
Yep.
the Mouse, Whiz
Yep.
Pig, Conquer the Squirrel, Crunch the Kremlin,
Kremlin.
Bumper the Badger, Bluey the Walrus. Was that a playable character? Taj the Genie, Smokey the Dragon, Bubbler the Octopus. Are these some of these enemies?
No, I think those are some of the
Yeah,
characters.
because the
Bosses
elephant
and-
magician elephant was
Oh,
just like your helpful
I
guy.
think
Yeah.
this is one. Timber the Tiger. Was
That
that
sounds
the
was a
tiger
player.
one
Yep.
of them?
He had a blue, like a blue or purple cap.
TT. I don't know what TT is. Yeah, Drumstick the Rooster. I
Drumstick.
can see
Drumstick.
there. I'm trying to see what. I think that's about
I
all I
think
can
there.
find.
Yeah, there was not a whole lot of.
Yeah, interesting.
The same as like,
Bum,
Mario
bum,
Kart.
bum, 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 bum,
What an
bum.
interesting game. That
Yeah.
It really was.
appreciated.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys ever played the DS version?
No, I didn't know.
I had no
honestly,
idea there was a
I didn't know there was
DS,
a DS version either.
I have never
did.
played it. I think Alex did, but I don't remember for a fact. I'm just curious. Like I've never played it. I wonder how it is in comparison. But
Yeah.
no, that's a good
good.
number 9, man. Like I said, it was on my list. It was on my I think it made it down to the 15, but I just couldn't. I was like, it doesn't make the cut. There was quite a few games that didn't. That I was like, I can't believe this isn't making it.
Yeah, yeah, like I said, it was painful. I feel like for me, am I up?
Yep.
Number
Yes,
9.
please.
All right, so yeah, for me, I feel like for a while early on, 6 through 15 was very fluid early on. Maybe it was 7 through 15. I don't know, but eventually I settled on like a top, I think 7, and I was like, this is solid. And then the bottom 3, I kept shuffling. It was tough, man. And I literally had to go to NSO and play a couple games and be like, try to like bring back up memories and
yeah.
I made some of my decisions based on what aged better, like ultimately between some and else, just because I was like, that makes more sense on a top 10 list when I can't pick between 2 games, which aged better. Mm-hmm. And that was what happened here in number 9. What I landed on was, what is it? Mario.
I don't know.
We don't know your list.
Mario Party 2, folks. Mario Party 2.
Yeah.
Yet another multiplayer game. Are we seeing a trend here? Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe.
It was the ideal system for it, so the 4 ports.
Yep.
Mario Party. This was again. We talked about the golden era of wrestling. This was the golden era of Mario Party to me. 2 and 3 especially. Like I feel like I couldn't fault anyone for saying 2 or 3 was the best Mario Party, and I'd be like, yeah, you're right. You know, like either way, yes.
Just yes.
1 was good. 2 and 3 made it so much better. I feel like they shared a lot of mini games too, having played through both of them now in NSO. But this one too, for some reason, just stuck out. That's the one we had at home. It's the one we played over and over again. And I gotta say, between 2 and 3, I feel like the maps and like the thematic ness of 2 versus 3 makes 2, it gives it an edge to me. Like, you know how there was the pirate ship one, there was the Wild West one, and like all your characters wore like hats and like outfits themed to whatever map you went into. I don't think they carried that over into Mario Party 3 if I
I don't
remember.
think they've ever done that again.
Yeah, I don't know, it made it more party feeling
Which
to
I
me.
haven't played all of them enough.
Called
to really say
Mario
that, but
Party.
It made it feel like a party to me, all right? Yeah. And it was just such a fun game. Like I think I wrote down my favorite mini games. I went through the list. Maybe some of these will ring a bell for you people. Bumper Balls. I think that was a great one. Also, I think in Mario Party 3.
Bumper Balls has been a lot of them, I think.
Bobsled Run.
Oh, yeah.
Shell Shocked.
That's a tank one, yeah.
The tank one,
Yeah,
you
that
know,
was
with
fun.
the pipes in the middle.
Yeah.
Speed hockey. It was kind of like Pong, like Pong, but like 2v2 Pong.
Okay.
Pong, like that was really good.
Sounds familiar.
Lights Out. Do you remember that one? The
Yeah,
one
we
where
have to stop moving when the lights when You move around with the lights off?
I think Lights Out is the one where there's one guy with a hammer and you're trying to run away from him. The lights go off and you're not sure where he is, but the only lights are over the players that he's trying to hit. It was a 1v3 mini game. It was Lights Out. You remember that one?
It sounds familiar now.
Dude, it provided so many laughs and
Some
haha, you
frustration.
sucks and like no, what have I done? Just one of those just hilarious mini games. And then Facelift, I remember too. Facelift was really
that one
really
and the
good.
one where you outline the characters too.
Oh yeah, it was a cut. It was like a you were on top of like
a sledgehammer.
Of a sledgehammer, yeah, and you're like cutting shapes of
I always
famous
loved
characters.
both of those levels or both of those mini games.
I don't have a whole lot more to say. Like this was just to me quintessential Mario Party. Like if you want to go back, you don't even have to go back, right? Everyone has a Switch basically, and you can play it right now on NSO, and you can see how good it is yourself. And I'd like you to play 3 also and make your own decision for yourself, but I wouldn't fault you for making either one. So this is my representative on the top 10 is Mario Party 2. 3 did not make it on. It would be in my top 15 probably, maybe top 20 at worst. But
and what he's saying is, if one is your favorite, you're wrong.
I think you're wrong. Yeah, having played it and seen like some of the decisions they made and like how frustrating it was compared to 2 and 3. Recently too, like we talked about it on an episode I think last year. Me and Hannah told you like 1 is not great sometimes.
It hasn't aged well.
Not great.
I never owned any of these as a kid, but 2 I played the most because you had it.
Yeah.
I think I even borrowed it at one point. 1 my friend Chris Hartford had, so I played that one a decent amount, and 3 I got way later and played it a handful of times, but me and my friend Caleb revisited them all on NSO like you guys kind of did, and we played each map, and I'll say now none of them made my list, my top 10 list, but unequivocally I agree 2 was the best. Like, and nice. I don't believe it's just nostalgia. I think it had the most charm out of them, and the maps were my favorite, and the mini games
maps
were really
didn't
good.
have many, but they were all really good.
Yeah, a really good game.
Yeah.
All right, so we're on to number 8. So my 8th pick. This one might be a surprise to you guys. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of my list actually probably will be, but this one probably won't be on your guys' list for sure. This came out in October of 1999. It's another Rare game. Do you guys want to take a guess as to what game it is?
Rare game, 1990, Banjo-Kazooie.
Nope.
Wait, I'm trying to think of all the Rare games. Jet Force Gemini.
That would be correct.
Wow, Jet Force Gemini got there. Dang, dude.
So out of all of the Rare games, I probably played Jet Force Gemini the most.
Wow.
Now, that's hard to say because Donkey Kong took so long to beat, and
Sure.
I did 100% it. I don't remember if I did the 101%, but I know I got all, everything. So, in theory, that may have taken more of my time, but Jet Force Gemini, I loved this game. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't replay it, so I'm not going to say it's aged well. I don't remember. But I have so many fond memories of playing this game. I loved... It probably explains a lot about some of the games I like now because it had such a haunting sci-fi feel to it.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
Yeah.
And there were 3 main characters. You could play as either Juno, who was the guy, Vila, who was the girl, or Lupus, who was the dog.
I love the dog.
And
man.
I loved that you could play as a dog because
Yeah.
I've always been a dog guy. I had dogs growing up. I thought that was super cool. And he had because he couldn't jump, so he used a jetpack to move around.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, he could jump, but not the same. So,
Yeah.
he had a jetpack that helped him move around everywhere. It was just a very unique game. Also, it was rated teen, but it was also maybe a little bit more...
I think it was like a teen plus.
Yeah, it was, because it was a little more violent than most of the
Yeah.
games that my parents let me play. They probably just didn't pay attention to it. But the fact... So also, real quick, too, there were also 2 kind of main races in the game. The tribals, who are like a teddy bear type looking character that you were there to save, and then the
I remember those.
what was the other one? I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget it. The drones, who basically look like ants.
Yep.
Yeah, all the baddies.
And they were the bad guys who you have to fight off. And it wasn't like it was super graphic, and by today's standards, it's basically PG. But back then, it was pretty crazy because when you'd shoot them, if you shot them in the right spot, you could the ants, their heads would fly off.
Yeah,
and then,
I remember
Yeah.
and then you could collect their head and
Yeah.
and just have it in your inventory because I don't think it was good for anything. It may have been counted as a currency somewhere. I don't remember. But the sad thing was, if the tribals, when you go into an area and things would you start shooting at the enemies, they start running around and they could get caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, you could shoot
And-
friendly fire. I forgot
Yeah.
about that.
And their heads would also pop off.
Oh gosh, not
and you
them.
could also pick them up. So that was all very weird. But overall, like, I really liked the level design in this game. Like, I've always been very much so into sci-fi, being a Star Wars kid growing up. I also had a lot of appreciation for Star Trek, and like, I loved The Fifth Element when I was a kid. Like, I've always leaned heavy sci-fi. Like, I love sci-fi, and this game really gave me levels and stuff that felt like I was playing this very unique science fiction universe. It also had a pretty cool multiplayer mode that I remember playing quite a bit. It's one of the few games that I remember being so much better than you and Jordan at that you wouldn't play with me anymore.
I was busy playing other multiplayer games like No Mercy.
There was not a lot of games. Usually we were all pretty equal, especially like me and James would be pretty equal.
Jordan was pretty young, so it wasn't like fair.
Yeah,
really.
it wasn't.
Jordan
fair,
did his best.
I remember
His
very
baby brain.
specifically with Jet Force Gemini, his baby brain. He's 3 years younger than us. Jordan, if you hear this, he's basically calling you retarded.
Bad word these days. I'm sorry.
Anyway, but yeah, one of the few examples of a game I remember very clearly James being like, I don't want to play this anymore because they just couldn't beat me. Like, I don't remember how I got so good at it, but one of my favorite things about this game was that, and a lot of people may not even know this because I don't know how well it was publicized, but about 3 or 4 levels in, you get a little robot companion that kind of flies above your shoulder. That he kind of works as almost like a Navi type, where he'll tell you little things and stuff, but a lot less annoying. But a second player could actually join and play as that character. And like I said, I don't know if it was really well publicized. I don't remember, but I remember getting to that point and realizing that and being super excited, and like my friend Nick coming over and us playing through like the majority of the game, taking turns playing as the role, because you have to stay right with whoever the main character is. But I just thought that was a really cool like addition, because it wasn't a game that felt like would be multiplayer normally. I mean, have a cooperative type mode.
So it was kind of like a soft co-op mode. Basically,
it was soft. It was almost like Mario Galaxy has, where second player can do like shoot stuff, but a little bit more interactive than that, because they're actually there and they can move around within a certain bubble of the main character. Yeah. Which is why we would also take turns, playing, because it would get a little boring for the second person if you didn't. Yeah. But overall, I don't know. Like, I don't know what people think about this game now. Like, I don't know how highly it's regarded. I do believe it's on NSO now.
I think it is. Yeah,
it is.
It is.
So
I feel like I booted it up once.
I should go back to it. I'm sure it doesn't look as good as I remember it looking, because 64 games just don't. But I had a lot of love for this game, and when I think of the 64, this game almost always pops into my head pretty early in that, like, the sizzle reel in my mind that comes up.
Yep.
So yeah, this was, like I said, these bottom 3 are the most fluid. That if I really sat down and played again, maybe played some other games, they have more chance to move out. But I'm very comfortable with them being in here right now. And I gave it a lot of thought before I settled on any of these 3. Yeah. But so that's it for number 8 for me. So that was Jet Force Gemini.
Yeah, my memories of Jet Force Gemini are the Nintendo Power issue that came out. I remember reading it, being very excited for it. I know we bought the game because I remember you'd come over and you'd play it too. I don't know if did you have it at the same time as us?
I don't think I got it until after I played it.
I do remember, I do remember coming over and playing it, and I just loved it. Like, even though it was like, I feel like the idea of it was mainly one player. It was more of a campaign game, but like back in these days, developers didn't ignore multiplayer, especially on Nintendo platforms, and that I think is very special. And it just made for a lot of fun. It made it for you to be able to experience games in different ways. Rare especially seems to have done that with a lot of their games.
Yeah, I agree. They always tacked in a multiplayer mode
or a co-op, so it's still multiplayer in a different way,
And even if they may not be the best all the time, the best multiplayer, at least it was there, and it did give you something to do with your friends. If you only had a couple games, it was something to do. Yeah. And it was always good. It just may not have been the best. Yeah. But yeah, no, I have a lot of fun memories.
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Third-person shooter, right?
Yep. Definitely. All right, Jarrett, what's your go on? We've all done number 8, right? Or is it? I was 8 first. Go on.
You start first. 8. All right. So number 8 for me, November 17th, 1998, was Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, let's go.
Good game.
It's a great game.
Great game.
It's a really good game.
Yeah. It's been so long. I mean, I gotta find a way to play it one of these days. But I remember playing that just all the time. Even during trips, just pack the whole 64 just so I can play that. like going off like skiing or something. So at night to play that, but being of course a big Star Wars fan, Rogue Squadron, played a X-wing and other vehicles.
Yep.
What more? What more does a guy need?
Yeah.
I totally hear that.
It was a good game, man. It was a really good game. I think the reason I remember the expansion pack attached to this is because we bought this, and I think we must have bought the expansion pack along with it. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember the expansion pack in an N64 game case, basically. It was
Came in its own separate box.
its own separate box. It was like the same size as an N64 game, I remember. And it was just the expansion pack on the front. This game was great, dude. It was really good. Like we've done the trench run in a number of different occasions, whether arcade or otherwise. But this was a great game, and like the difficulty of it was surprising.
Mm-hmm. It really amps up, and there are so many challenges in this game too. Like I haven't played it in so long now, and I own it now, but I didn't own it as a kid, so I didn't play it as much as I would have liked. But I remember just like the wide variety of different, like once you get a different ship, you had a reason to go back to different levels and replay them. Just, and very detailed too. Like probably one of the more detailed 64 games as far as like what was going on in the ground underneath you. Like correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this is a false memory, but isn't there like people moving around and stuff? And when you blow up a building, sometimes like the people would scatter out.
I think so, like stormtroopers and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Okay. So I'm not crazy.
Well,
yeah, okay, yeah, a little bit, but my brain is broken. Yeah, man, that's such a good game.
What would you call that? What would you classify this game as? A shooter? Like not a shoot 'em up, but like what would you call it? Like a
what is Ace Combat called? It's a
air comp.
Maybe it is just air combat.
It's
a genre. It's a genre.
Yeah, because like it's easy to go, oh, it's just a shoot 'em up, but it's not really a shoot 'em up. It's something different, you know. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a different.
Space shooter. Let's see. I'm gonna keep.
I remember playing levels on
flight
Hoth.
action game, like flight action.
Just a flight.
It doesn't sound right.
I mean, there's different websites calling it different
When
things.
in
Like
doubt, remember that
Steam
Gundam
calls it a
Ride
genre action simulator.
Flight action sim. Yeah, like this is a tough one to classify. Like you guys got to play this to see what we're talking about. I feel like it was a lot of fun.
Dogfighting?
Dogfighting? Would you? I don't know, I guess maybe. But is that a genre? Dogfighting? Like how many dogfighting games are there?
Crimson Skies.
I guess that's true. That's true.
It's kind of like a simulator, but not really.
Yeah, I don't know. They call Ace Combat an arcade style combat flight sim. So
that'd be the closest.
It's got to be the closest to that.
Flight sim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like it's closer to a shoot 'em up though than that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
You know
it's
what
not
I'm
like
saying?
realistic flight. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. It's tough to classify. If shmup heads weren't so stubborn, they would let some of these games into their. But
It's just not a shmup though.
It's not a shmup though. But yeah,
I'm definitely not even like a shmup guy, and I will 100% admit it's not a shmup.
it's not a shmup. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, good pick, man.
That is a good pick. I really loved it.
Yeah, I've wanted to go back and play that game for a while too because, like I said, I remember playing it a lot, but because I never owned it, I don't think I ever really finished it all. And I loved the GameCube games, and they were very similar but still different. Like I want to go back and play this again.
The GameCube games followed the pattern in the play style and kind of the mission to mission like formula that this one set in place. I think a lot of people would say those ones, maybe number 2 in specific is probably the best of the bunch, but like this game was nothing to mock
Especially
at.
for a 64 game.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah. Rogue Leader, which was the first GameCube one, was a launch title. And it was just like, it was a phenomenal launch title. Like, it looked fantastic. It played fantastic. Yeah. It was going to set a good place in people's minds because of that. Because more people played it because it was a launch title. But I truly, if memory serves right, I truly believe that Rogue Squadron and Rogue Leader are almost interchangeable as to like quality, just on different consoles.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, James, what's your number 8?
Number 8. I feel really good about number 8, guys. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's a hard top 8. I'm not sure. All I know is this is the one. I'm not gonna lie. This is the one I wanted to talk about most.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
why,
right, because I'm not gonna get another opportunity. I feel like on a podcast to talk about this game. So here we go. Number 8. It is Wave Race 64. I could have put this a lot higher on, like lower. This could have cracked top 5 for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Not just nostalgia.
I don't know anybody that talks about Wave Race as much as you do.
It's really good, guys. This is not just me. Let me talk about it a little bit. November 1st, 1996, right? So this is the launch year of N64. And this was more than just a launch window title, right? Like Mario come out 3 months before, and then this came out. So we talked about the transition, right, from SNES to N64 and how it blew everyone's mind. And everyone's basically first exposure to that was Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
It was mind-blowing. But when you came to this game, this was the first like game set in like a real world, outside, in the water, on a jet ski. Just the title screen, man. It was so bright and colorful.
The music is so good.
The music is so good. Yeah, just catchy tunes. This game was beautiful, guys. It was beautiful. And it was the first time you'd seen like a real 3D environment that was like set like in a real world situation, you know? Outside of maybe like an arcade, I guess, at the time, you know?
Yeah.
But like on a home console, Wave Race 64, seeing it in person was just like mind-blowing. It really,
Those
really
water
was.
effects still look good.
Oh, they still look good. They do. Yeah. But for those who aren't aware, this game was produced by Miyamoto. This is a Miyamoto game, everyone, in case you weren't aware. So what makes this game great, really, is a number of things, but the way it controls, the way you control your jet ski, the way you have to change the way you play and react to waves and the ocean currents. Like I've heard quotes like, this water is undefeated for 25 years. Like people say that like to this day is like one of the sterling examples of how to have like water and waves in a video game, because it had like a very real, tangible like effect on how you raced, how you maneuvered the courses, and you could feel it in game. Like we didn't have Rumble Pack at the time, but like when you raced, like I don't even know how to describe it. Like you could almost feel yourself in the waves as you're playing the game, if that makes any sense at all. Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
your first time playing this?
Well, at your house, yeah, I very much so remember, because it was. Whereas Mario 64 was mind blowing in its openness, this game was mind blowing in its pure like aesthetic and just how, and because it's not as open as Mario, but the water effects always have sat in my mind as to how freaking just well done it is.
Yeah,
like the movement. It's so hard to explain to
is.
somebody who hasn't played it, I guess. But, I mean, logically it makes sense. When you think of, like, a wavy water and you see... And if you've ever been in a boat on wavy water, you know how you just kind of, like... There's that little bit of moving up and down. Like, in Wave Race, you're not in there, but you still feel it. And it seems like it projects that perfectly into the way that the jet ski moves.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, too, is not just how the waves work, but how they affect the stages you're in and the courses you're in. Like, the tides change as you're going through your laps, right? So, like, maybe on lap 2 or 3 of a race, like, all of a sudden the tide is on low tide, right? And you can now take a jump and do a nosedive under a platform you couldn't before on an earlier lap. So they use the water in really incredible and creative ways to make the course change in real time. And at the same time, you use the waves to make yourself have a better run, right? And like for those people who haven't played this game, the way you speed up and get faster is there's these big buoys. I think they're red and yellow ones. I think I played it last night. I think they're red and yellow, and you kind of go through them and in and around them slalom style, right? And there's arrows, so it tells you what you want to go left of this one, you want to go right of this one, and as you go around the buoys on the right directions, you build up your speed meter, and so you're at like max speed, max power on your watercraft or your jet ski. And so there's all these like factors in the race you're accounting for: the buoys, the water, and how it helps and hinders you as you're racing through the course, how it makes the race easier by creating avenues you didn't have before. Like, it's incredible. It's a really very unique experience that to this day, like, I don't think there is a better representative for this kind of a game, certainly this kind of a racer. And that all is before you take into account that, like, there's 4 different characters. You can customize their stats, like handling, I don't know, a la Mario Kart these days, you know? You could play against another person, only 2 people. There's only a 2-player versus, but this one was more like time trial, beat your own scores centric. Like, racing against people was fun, but like this was all about like getting better yourself on the tracks. You could do stunts. You could do sideways. You could do front flips, back flips, and all kinds of things. And there were I think there was a trick mode or something like that. So you could describe this as one of the earliest examples of kind of like an extreme sports type of game.
It was Tony Hawk before Tony Hawk.
I mean, on some level, you might be able to say that. There were 9 courses. So I guess maybe if I have any complaint about this game, and I have very few, there's only 9 courses. But they are meticulously crafted. They're beautiful. They're in different environments at different times of the day, in different climates, whether it's bright, beautiful beach or it's like a frigid tundra area. What else can I say about this game that I haven't? When people talk about the best racing games on 64, the ones that come to mind a lot of times, 1080 snowboarding, Diddy Kong Racing, rightfully so. F-Zero X comes up a lot too. Mm-hmm. In my eyes, this thing is the king. This is the GOAT of racing games on the 64, and I don't think it's particularly close. In terms of quality, I think it's much better than Mario Kart 64 too. It's that good, guys, and
graphically especially.
And what's more, critics at the time agreed. If you, I didn't realize this. I had to look this up to confirm it. But this is when they actually started tracking Metacritic way back. It was right around 64 because like Ocarina of Time has one famously. It's near the top. This is sitting at a 92 or a 93 overall on Metacritic. So this on any given year, it would have been a Game of the Year contender. Based on the critic reviews we have available to us, which is admittedly not a lot, but at the time, this game was critically acclaimed too. It wasn't just some launch title; it was a banger.
Yeah.
And if you could take anything away from this episode that I can tell you, play Wave Race 64. Especially if you like racers, this game is so good. It's really, really good, and it's one of my favorite 64 games. It easily could have been in my top 5.
It's number 8 for him.
Yeah, I don't the way I'm talking about it. It should be top 5. It probably should be top 5. It's just there's some there's
nostalgia.
There's nostalgia.
Goggles,
there's
really.
nostalgia and pedigree with some of the other ones on the list, and I'm just I couldn't go.
When it comes to multiplayer too, some of them we played together, or you and your brother, or all of us, or whatever, played together so much it will shift how we view things sometimes.
Dude, and on the note of the transition and how mind blowing it was from 16-bit to 64, I played this on NSO last night. I'm surprised by how good it still looks.
Nice.
Of all the games I have on this list, it probably aged maybe... I could make a case for aging the best of almost any of the games on my list. Guys, go play it on NSO. Tell me what you think.
I need to. I haven't played it in a long
time.
time.
See what it looks like and how it handles, and I think you're gonna have some idea of why we were so blown away by this game when it came out in 1996.
Yeah. No, it makes sense to me. I think right now the only thing I find criminal is that you didn't mention the fact that you can ride a dolphin.
You can ride a dolphin. That's true. Dude, guys, it's such a good game. It doesn't make I don't like racers really, generally speaking. Unless they're they have some competitive aspect or some multiplayer aspect that is kind of dominates the gameplay. But this is such a good game. It's not a lot of it's some of it's nostalgia, but it's not just that. This is a legitimately great game.
Yeah. It definitely still looks good. Like I said, I need to play it because it's been a long time. But last time I remember playing it, I remember being blown away by how well the water effects still looked, how good they still looked.
Best water in the business.
Best water in the game.
I gotta check it out. I don't think I've ever played it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Right? So everyone was playing Mario 64.
Sure.
They probably were still playing and fascinated and obsessed, and understandably so. And then a month after this game came out, I believe Mario Kart 64 came out. So whatever time this game had to shine in the light and be in the spotlight, it was gone. You know what I'm saying? So in a tiny corner of the video game community, they recognize how great this game is. But
and James is part of that.
I
am tying to that.
He's tying to that part.
I'm tying to that. I need some more alcohol.
Take it.
See, the alcohol's making him stupid. He said Wave Race number 8.
It's number 8, guys.
Oh, man.
It's great out of 10.
Great out of 10. Oh, boy.
All right, so
I like it.
Number 7. We're on to number 7 for me. I believe this is probably where my list starts getting controversial. I can't say that for a fact. Maybe I would be surprised if you guys didn't both have it on your list. At least higher than this at this point. But for me, number 7, Mario Kart 64.
Let's go.
Let's go.
This is not controversial to me
no,
at all.
All right. So we've all played Mario Kart 64. There's probably very few people who have played a 64 that have not played Mario Kart 64. It is genuinely the Mario Kart that made Mario Kart popular. I know Super Mario Kart probably had a lot of fans, but Mario Kart 64 is what where the game transcended into greatness.
Yes.
It is funny because as a kid, this game was untouchable as far as multiplayer went in my head.
Yeah.
And everything about it was perfection. And still to this day, there's a lot of things I love about it. The levels, there's some absolutely fantastic levels on it. Wario Stadium, the Rainbow Road, Koopa Beach, are so many great levels. But the thing I will say, this game is broken AF.
Yes, it is.
You're so right.
I do not know how they did not catch this, but the rubber banding that
so
the
bad.
computer
it's
carts
so
can do.
frustrating.
So on Wario Stadium, there is a cheat where you can jump over the beginning of at the beginning of the race and cut out half the lap. Which I had that down to a T. Ask James, he hated it.
Oh god, it was such a nightmare.
You could have done it too.
I wanted to punch you in the head. I still do.
But I had it down to a T. And as an adult, I understand, like, it's kind of annoying. Like, it's cheating. Like, I should have just done the race. But as a kid, I thought it was hilarious that you couldn't do it.
It's like yeah, we'll keep going.
So the point of me bringing this up, though, is that, so you cut out half the race. But then you look at half the lap. You look at the mini map, though, those little caricatures of the character on the mini map jumping.
You literally see it happening.
see it happen.
They're moving. It's like the AI in the game is so broken that they're not supposed to be that far behind
so bad.
you.
Yeah.
So it is beyond broken.
It is.
And I will 100% say, if I was just rating off of the pure racing aspect of this game alone, it wouldn't have made my list. Diddy Kong Racing would have easily probably replaced it. Yeah, that's hard. That's a hard thing to say. I don't know where Diddy Kong Racing falls completely in my top 20. But it's the better racer of the two. Like, I'll 100% say that. Where Mario Kart 64 truly shines and why it made the list still is because of the battle mode.
Yes.
So good.
The racing in this game is fun. 4-player, 1-player, didn't matter. I had fun even as a kid. I had lots of fun memories. As an adult, I see it's broken, and it's obnoxiously so. But the battle mode holds up. I don't care. I don't think it matters. Like, Block Fort still 10 out of 10 best multiplayer level in a Mario Kart game. I don't think I've played any multiplayer in a Mario Kart since that's been as fun to me as, first off, the battle mode in 64, but let alone Block Fort. Block Fort and what's the other tiered level one too? Because that one was really good. There's the
donut. There's
the donut and there's Skyscraper, and then the other one was really good too. But Skyscraper and the Flame Donut one didn't get played as often.
Yeah,
they're kind of lame.
Yeah, I agree.
Block Fort though, that level is pure money.
So good.
There's nothing wrong with that level. It is absolute perfection. And I remember the countless time spent playing this game multiplayer because of the battle mode. I will forever be baffled that Mario Kart has not been able to recreate this simple battle mode and make it as good. I would rather go back and play Mario Kart 64's battle mode than any multiplayer versus mode in any other Mario Kart since. It's stupid. Like, the DS one was probably the next closest.
I feel like I was about to say the DS one was really close.
It's just absolutely bonkers to me. But I remember very clearly all of the times we'd get together and we'd play multiplayer Block Fort for hours. I remember my friend Nick would come over and we would sit there and go head to head on Block Fort for hours, getting, I'd win one, he'd win one, I'd win one, he'd win one, just back and forth forever. Like, it's such a simple concept as literally just having 3 balloons and trying to be the person to win on one level that was so well designed is literal perfection. And I will honestly say battle mode on Block Fort alone is why Mario Kart made my list. Like, I'm not even joking.
That's pretty bold. That's pretty bold, honestly.
As a game as a whole, like, there's a lot of things I do love about it.
Yeah.
It still has some of my favorite levels, but I think if I was to sit down and compare and I'm just using Diddy Kong Racing as an example because they're the two most comparable racers on the console.
Yeah.
If I was to compare, almost across the board, Diddy Kong Racing is the better game. But Block Fort, Battle Mode, me and Caleb recently, my friend Caleb recently played multiple. We were just playing endless matches on it because it's such a well designed level.
Yeah,
It is.
It is.
I don't know. I love this game still. Like, it's a game that I will always hold dear to my heart because it is. When it came out, like, I remember being on the bus on the school bus in elementary school, going to, like, I didn't take the bus in the morning, but like going to like a field trip or something and talking to the kids. And like, this was a game that people like, everybody played. If you had a 64, you played Mario Kart. I remember everybody talking about who their favorite racer was, who their favorite level was, like, or what their favorite level was. Just a fantastic game.
Yep.
And it definitely has its flaws, but I have super strong nostalgia for it. And and I'll die on the hill that Block Fort is one of the best multiplayer levels in a game period.
Yeah.
Of course that's very subjective to a lot of different things, but it is such a well-designed level.
This is on my list too. I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't gonna spoil too many times, but in this case I will because we've already talked about it. It's on my list. I won't say where yet, but it's just so good. It's so good. It's in front of a game that I think is, again, like you said, clearly a much better racer. Is Wave Race 64 better than this game? Yes. Hands down, in my opinion, like, in so many regards. But, like, this is just such a different game. This game, to me, represents, like, maybe, at the time, and I don't know, maybe even to this day, the game that I've put the absolute most hours into multiplayer with anyone, Like, that might be this game. I'm not sure. I can like vividly remember all the the courses in this game. Like, certain one come to mind all the time, like Toad's Turnpike or the ice one. I can't remember what it was. With all the penguins going around and you go into the cave. Yep. Like, that one was so frustrating but so good. Mm-hmm. I remember Wario Stadium, of course.
Bowser's Castle, fantastic.
Bowser's Castle.
What's the Yoshi level called?
The Yoshi level, all the different routes. With the eggs.
And they don't show you where you're at on the mini map.
Yeah.
So on the little.
That was so good. Yeah. And then specifically the Rainbow Road on this is really, to me, the Rainbow Road GOAT.
It's crazy long.
It is.
But Mario Kart 8 did a good job of realizing they needed to break it up. one lap is now all 3 laps in Mario Kart 8.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's probably still my favorite Rainbow Road.
This would have gotten the list alone just because it's where I fell in love with and kind of like started identifying with Wario. Not to mention, dude,
he stinks.
This introduced like some quotes that are iconic and like memorable forever. Like, I'm Wario. I'm gonna win. and I live by that to this day. I'm gonna win.
Oh yes. If you guys want to know why James is annoying, play Mario Kart 64 with him.
Man. Well, I think that's why the glitch in Wario Stadium was so frustrating. It was like, this is my track, and it's the one track I know I'm going to lose to Chris in every single time because I can't exploit the glitch like he can. It grated at me so bad. I'm like,
glitch.
This is my I should have home field advantage here, Chris, and Chris is just beating me. Doing exactly the same things I do when I beat him in video games, just laughing. He knows it's driving me crazy, and it's making him so happy, and I'm like, I hate you. This is my home field, man.
I'm so angry right now.
Like, what more can I say that hasn't been said? Is it the best racing game ever? Is it the best Mario Kart game even ever? No, not even. No, I don't think so. But like, this game represents like family. It represents friends. It represents just so much fun over the years and even to this day,
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I'll say, too, like, I've played every Mario Kart a lot at this point throughout the years. And other than DS, because I played that one a lot because of its challenge mode that it had, I never play Mario Kart that much once I kind of go through all the tracks, other than when I'm with my friends. But, like, I'm talking specifically, like, at my place, But Mario Kart 64 was always played regularly because of battle mode. And because none of the games have had one that was as comparable to it. I feel that's why, when people come over, I've never been like, dude, let's play Mario Kart 8. Let's play Double Dash. Like, they're all fun, but the battle mode in 64 is just I've said it already enough, but top notch.
I think the fact that we both are making cases for this game for different reasons, like I didn't even bring up the battle mode, which I think is the great and probably the gold standard of all the battle modes that Mario Kart has had to this point. That wasn't even the reason I put this on my list, the battle mode, but like you're making that the case for why it's on your list, and I'm making the case that like just memories and time spent in really good tracks and new characters had never been into Mario Kart before, like. I don't know. And I did this introduce the blue shell, this game?
Yeah, it did.
Yep, it
So
did.
let's go.
Yes, it did.
The nuclear warhead of a
Friendships were ruined.
Oh man.
Did it make your list too, Jarrett? You said it did?
It did make my list.
Okay.
Nice.
Well,
Wait, who to this
He
day?
just went. Oh,
Who's your main? Who's your main on Mario Kart
Yoshi.
64?
Yoshi.
Yoshi was my main man.
He's
He's
Jarret.
literally repping a Yoshi shirt.
Yeah, I
Let's
like
go.
it.
Let's go.
I
Yeah,
like it.
Yoshi's been my main since. Well, on Super Mario Kart, it was Koopa Troopa, and then they took him out.
Same here.
Yeah, let's go, man.
Same
So then
here.
I moved to Yoshi, and then when somebody beats me to Yoshi,
As Yoshi, they beat you.
yeah, like when somebody else, because back then you could only pick
Oh,
one
that's
racer.
right.
That's right.
I know. Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
So if somebody beat me to Yoshi, I don't know who I'd pick. Probably Bowser or Donkey Kong. Definitely not Wario.
Back in the day, I'd probably like make a fit if somebody took Wario in front of me and just like walked away.
You probably did.
I would have
knowing you
yeah,
definitely did.
I had self control issues.
Yeah.
back then.
I don't know how he got him in check, but
Oh,
he's gotten him in
man.
check somewhat at least. Dude, oh man, I have a story. If you would have brought up WCW versus NWO, whew, I had a story, but we'll leave that for another
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Oof. Video games were not great for me sometimes back in the day.
Compared to now, people love him when they play video games. With
Oh, yeah.
So much.
All right, Jarrett, what's your number 7?
It was Mario Kart, but like I said, been fluctuating back and forth. So now number 7 is Smash Brothers.
Let's go!
Oh,
Let's
released
go!
April 26, 1999.
This is your number 7?
That's my number 7.
This is my number 7.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hey,
this-
I'll just spoil
right.
it for everybody right now and say it wasn't my number 6. So
Yeah?
it's
Nope.
like it's right there.
all right.
It's
So
right there.
we feel like this is the sweet spot for Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
All right,
And
go.
I distinctly remember the commercial.
Uh-huh.
Do you?
Yeah.
The
I
people
do
in the
remember that.
costumes?
Imagine me and you.
Yeah. And you and
You
me.
remember that? They're on the costumes. They're all walking.
I honestly don't remember this.
They're
commercial.
running through the field of flowers and they start fighting and
Yeah,
beating
they
each
start
other up. It's
punching
Donkey
each other.
Kong,
Yeah.
Mario, Pikachu, and
Oh my.
who's
Okay.
the fourth?
It was Yoshi.
Yoshi, Mario, Donkey Kong, Pikachu.
Yeah, it was 4. Yeah.
Okay.
One of you two post it to the Discord as soon as you remember, or as soon as somebody listens to this and
Yep.
realizes
Yeah.
this is
It's,
on the Discord.
I've seen it on YouTube again. It's like I remember.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I've
right.
seen it pop
I
up
remember
on
that.
TikTok.
I do not remember this at all, but that
Oh.
sounds great.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So what do you love about it? So the commercial is your first memory.
The first
you said.
memory, because you saw that, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this is so cool, because it's like, not into the fighting games, but it's like, it's the Nintendo characters
Mm-hmm.
now kind of battling each other. So it's something totally new for Nintendo, something they haven't really done that now with all their different IPs now kind of being the crap out of each other a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so
At
to
the
be able to
time,
see
just
that.
having Pikachu in it too was like we're
That's
all
huge.
obsessed with
Huge.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
So,
Would this have been the first like 3D representation of Pokemon, or would a Pokemon Snap or
I
Stadium
think
have
both
come
of those
before?
were out at this point.
Were they
I
already out?
think.
Snap and Stadium. Oof. Yeah. I don't know.
I know for me personally, Smash Brothers was iconic for multiple reasons. One, some of the levels, fantastic.
Oh,
like
dude.
it still has, like, granted, a lot of them now have made it because of Ultimate, but for years, like Silphco, that level was
Silphco's good.
always one of my
Yes.
absolute favorites. And
Silphco's so good.
It was criminal that it wasn't around again for years. When the random Pokemon would come out of that door on the top, or and then when it would be Electrode and blow up and just destroy everything, or destroy you because you were too close. That and the unlockable like Mario 1 level was always really cool too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yep.
that's true.
Yep.
But for me, nothing was more memorable about this game than the fact that when you unlock the characters, one of them ended up being Ness. And
Yeah.
this game came out in 99, so I was 12, and I'd already played Earthbound and was obsessed with Earthbound at this point. There's not a lot of things very hipstery about me. Like, I don't claim, like, oh, I liked it before it was cool very often, but there's nothing. My number one thing was when when Smash Brothers came out and Ness was unlockable, my mind was blown and I was so excited, and nobody understood why, because nobody else had played Earthbound really at that point.
Great.
So like I've mained Ness since the beginning, because at that point, once I realized he was unlockable, it was GG. That's who I was gonna play. Like Ness was my boy. I loved Earthbound, and that changed. Like I don't know how much I cared about Smash Brothers before. I had to have already played it, like at least a little bit, because I think you guys got it like right around launch.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, once I saw that, it was game over. Like I love that. I loved that game, and being able to play as Ness was just top tier.
Who are the other unlockables? Were there only 4 in this game?
Total
this was
4.
This is by far the smallest roster of any Smash game.
4 unlockables. It was Luigi, Jigglypuff, Ness, and Captain Falcon.
Yeah. Falcon kick.
Falcon kick.
Punch.
Who is your main, Jer?
Let's see. You know what? I think it was Samus.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too. Let's go.
Yeah.
Number 7 and the same main.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Twinning.
gosh.
Just
Dude.
don't talk about Star Wars. We're getting along right now.
Okay, we're happy. We're happy.
I think somebody's going to review Bummer Opinions on this, Jer.
Oh man.
Gosh, this game, it's like, I don't know. I don't even know where they got the idea. I should have gone. Well, we're gonna have a Smash Brothers episode at some point, right? That's inevitable.
Should happen.
It is such a big deal. This started something that it's become so huge. Like I wouldn't say a specific Smash Brothers game is my favorite game of all time. I'd say Smash Brothers is one of my favorite games of all time, right? Like just in general, every Smash game
franchises, yeah.
I love. I started with Samus, and I think this would have been the very first time Samus was represented in 3D, right?
Yeah.
This game. We didn't even get Samus
On
a game on this
3D,
console.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's no Metroid game.
You had to wait till GameCube until Prime showed up. But, dude, it was like they watched Celebrity Deathmatch on MTV, and they were like, let's do that with Nintendo.
A little less gore.
Yeah.
But be careful about pausing after you electrocute Samus.
Yeah. Forgot about that. Yeah. Samus was my main for that, and for, I think, up until Brawl. Up until Toon Link became available, Samus was my main. This was
Wait, wasn't Toon Link or Young Link in Melee?
Young Link was in
Melee.
Melee, but I think Samus was still my main at that point on Melee. I'm pretty dang sure.
I don't remember.
I was pretty stubborn. And plus, Prime had come out on GameCube too, so
Oh,
there was even more
sure.
reason for me to continue rocking Samus. But like, this game was so good. A lot of these stages carried over across the generations. I think Corneria still is the GOAT, if you ask me.
That's classic.
I still play that on any
That's
Smash game, and like it's one of my go-tos.
Yeah, Corneria is great.
Hyrule Castle was really good. Surprisingly, I never liked any of the Metroid levels that much. I'm not gonna lie.
Brinstar, was that the one on 64?
I think
Yeah,
so.
that was. It had the music.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's Smash
I think the
Brothers.
music was better than the stage.
What can we say about Smash Brothers
That hasn't been
said in like 5 minutes? Like it's Smash Brothers. It's huge.
I don't know that I have anything else to say. I love the game. I think one thing I haven't said is that I have very fond memories of me and my friend Chris Hartford. He would come over and we'd do 99-man Smash. We'd on a team where we'd put 2 9-level computers against us, and we'd just like spend hours just like whittling away at them. That was fun. As an adult, like now it would be like, why would I do this? But as a kid, it was like a fun challenge, like to, just try to do something to give you a reason to keep playing it. And the home run contest, because that was in that one too,
yeah,
right?
home run
And then
contest. Target shooting.
Target shooting
was
target
fun.
break.
Yep.
And that was cool because every character's level layout was different.
Yeah.
So it gave you a reason to do it with all of them. And isn't that how you had to unlock one of the characters, by beating all those?
I think it might have been Ness, honestly. I wouldn't be
May have
surprised.
been- I think it was one of them.
I think it might have been Ness. I'll have to look back on that. But one other thing, too. Credit to Daddy Sakurai. This was the first time that we'd seen a fighter be played this way, right? Like, at the time, fighters were all, like...
Very combo based.
This was left to right as well, but yeah, combo... I mean, combos became a thing, too, especially in Melee. Like, this became a legitimate fan favorite fighter, and that would maybe arguable amongst the hardcore community. Forget them, who cares about them? But
I didn't say that.
I said that. Come at me. But
What's your Twitter, James?
at Qui-Gon Jimmy on Twitter and the X.
On Twix.
Twix, thank you. But like the idea of building up your damage and then getting knocked off the stage. That was a new concept. That was brand new concept for a fighter, and brilliant and different, and just made for a really unique and wonderful party game that literally is one of the biggest ones now. Like right now, people are talking, wondering what the next Smash game is going to be.
Boy.
If it's going to come, is it going to be Sakurai? Duh, it's going to be Sakurai.
It's got to be.
I don't think he's capable of walking away.
No, I don't. He'll die in mid development one day.
I think
That'll be the way he wants to go.
I think he has a dream.
That's the honorable way to go.
I think he dreams of being able to walk away, but I think the second development was to start. He'd be like, "Yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't let somebody else do it."
He'd walk in and see
he is the opposite of George Lucas. He won't sell it and walk away and be disappointed later. I don't think he can.
Yeah, like he'd walk in mid development on the next one that he wasn't part of and see how mediocre it was. He'd be like, "No,
yeah, I'll do it. I'll work for free.
You're
I'll work
fired.
for free.
I got the money. I'm fine.
It's fine."
Yeah, anyways,
no.
Smash.
Good pick. I'm surprised it ranked higher for me than you guys, but just barely. So
It could have gone higher.
yeah,
I mean,
Could have gone higher.
really, when I look at this list, it could be subject to change if I think of another week.
This could have been 4,
later.
5, or 6. I just, again, this was a painful process, and it was imperfect, and I feel really good about like my top 8, but like the order of them sometimes was rough.
yeah. It's a hard thing to say, but I do believe my top 7 would barely change.
Yeah,
But anyway, go ahead, James. What's your number 7?
that was it. So you're up.
Oh, that's right. Well, number 7, I went 7 first, which was Mario Kart.
Oh, okay.
And
So
then
we're on to 6.
And Smash is my number 6.
All right.
Oh.
So you're 6 to you, Jer Bear.
And then Mario Kart. So it's just like kind of swapped around a little bit.
Oh, this is good. We're speeding this process up now. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty, the obvious contenders, maybe.
All right, what's your number 6 then, James?
Let me look. Honestly, I don't remember.
Oh, it's Mario Kart.
Of course, Mario Kart could go higher. Like I said, it could change around. But
6
it's all good.
is not Mario Kart,
Uh-oh.
but it does start with M.
See, M. Mother 64. Oh, wait, I didn't come out. I'm sorry.
no, it's okay, Chris. You can step away if you need some tissues.
I'll go wipe my tears with my Nintendo Power with the Mother 64.
That honestly is so sad that game exists, and it like somewhere they have like probably the data, the memory of that
somewhere.
game stored on it
Yeah.
on a disc somewhere or something.
Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask.
Let's go. Sorry, I just totally interrupted you, but it just clicked what it was.
You were thinking the whole time. You're trying to process.
Yeah.
All right, guys. My number 6 is The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. So don't hate on me, people. Some of the games above this probably are worse games than this, but like there are 2 incredible Zelda games on the 64, needless to say, and Majora's Mask had to come somewhere on this list, and this is where it ended up. Okay, again, imperfect process. I'm sorry if this just feels like a sin. It's still nearly top 5.
This list
Just
is
get over
subjective.
it. Just get over it. Okay, it probably should have been in my top 5. It's not in my top 5. It's number 6. Okay. Anyways, April 27th, 2000. Again, towards the end of the life cycle, Majora's Mask. This was like, how do I even describe it? Like, you know how like Portland is like, what Portland is to Seattle. You know, how, like the weird city to the cool Seattle, like Majora's Mask was like the weird city to the cool Ocarina of Time. If that makes any sense at all.
It was.
Like,
yeah, okay.
like they're
yeah.
like Portland and Seattle are very similar in a lot of regards, but like Portland is just weird, and that's what Majora's Mask is.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a really bad
It's a weird
analogy.
analogy.
Analogy. But
Analogy.
does it make sense though?
Whatever.
It makes sense though, yeah? Like you
Yeah,
get
I
it?
get it. Yeah.
Like it's just a
the sad
weird...
thing is, I might just understand you now.
It's just a weird and wonderful game that is deserving of all the praise that it gets. You got the cartridge. I got the cartridge. I remember buying the game and playing it. I don't want to go into too great of detail because a lot of it's just going to be talking about Ocarina of Time. If you go, you know what I'm saying.
Sure,
But like, this game was incredible. It was wonderful. It was more story based than Ocarina of Time was. It added a sense of urgency that Ocarina of Time didn't, and that there was 3 days before literally the false guy, the false guys,
The false guys.
the false guys. The sky falls on you, aka the moon, with that scary face.
Mm-hmm.
And they reminded you every day that ticked by, like you're one day closer.
Mm-hmm. It was terrifying.
It was scary and cool and weird, and all the characters in the town. What was the name of the town again? Do you guys remember?
Clocktown.
Clocktown. There we go. There was just so much interesting stuff that you could trigger by being there at the right time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Really cool side quests, great dungeons. I don't know. What do you think?
I think
Is this on your list, guys?
Maybe. Maybe.
it is not on my list.
Whoa! You know, I don't blame you though. I almost wondered if I should cut this because I shouldn't have 2 Zeldas, but I don't know.
No, that's not the reason why. It's just I don't have the nostalgia for it.
Really?
Yeah, I
Okay.
never played it on
It's
64.
okay. I don't blame you.
No, I literally never played it on 64.
Oh,
I
okay,
only
that'll
ever
do it.
played the 3D version.
You played the 3DS version
or 3DS
only?
version, and I did really like it. But even at that, even if when I played it, it blew me away, and I felt comfortable putting it on the 64 list. I still don't. I liked it. I just don't have enough to say about it to have comfortably put it on my list. It's not even in my top 20.
Dang!
Whoa.
That is a hot take right there. That's a hot take.
I'm not. It was a good game. I'm not even dogging that. But if I literally, I was shocked at how strong the 64. I mean, granted, there's 296 games. It's probably about around 10 to 12% of that is actually as strong as I remember it being. But it was. Yeah, this was I have a lot of love for a lot of games on this console.
Yeah.
So
no, that's fair. That's fair. What do you got to say, Jer?
I'll talk later.
I will say it introduced Tinkle.
Oh, there we go.
Not that I cared at the time.
That's why I almost put it in my top 10.
Yeah, and just this was a game that added the gimmick. Gimmick seems like I'm saying a bad thing about the game, but it's not. The mechanic of changing masks to perform different functions, become like a little Deku scrub, or become a Goron and roll around basically was what it did. It just made for really, really cool puzzles and puzzle solving and traversal and and then the creepy mask salesman. That guy he'll haunt your dreams forever.
He's nightmare fuel.
That guy's scary.
Dream.
Oh man.
All right. So we'll talk about Majora's Mask more when we get to Jarret's.
That's fair.
And I'm going to go ahead and do everybody solid here and say we can talk about my number 5 pick more once we get to where it is on your lists. Because my number 5 is Ocarina of Time.
Whoa! Hot? That's a super hot take.
That's really hot. That's spicy hot.
My butthole's burning hot.
That's like Jimmy after Taco Bell.
That's pretty hot.
But it's in your top 5, so it's not like you're disrespecting it.
Oh, and I love this
You're
game.
not disrespecting
I interestingly, and I'll say this right now. Interestingly, out of the top 5 games on my list, 2 of these games are games that I would say if somebody said like I want a list of games that you feel like are must plays on 2 games on every console that are must plays, I would say Super Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
And that's how much I respect, appreciate, and love this game. But for me personally, this is only personal.
That's okay.
Like I said, if we did a list where we actually ranked, I would 100% agree with this game being higher on the list. But for me personally, there are other games that have more nostalgia and I have more love for, and I will pick up and play a lot more often.
That's okay.
Than Ocarina of Time.
That's okay.
But like I said, I say we hold off and we'll talk about it more once we get to where it is on either of your guys' list.
That's fair.
Because I know it's higher.
Maybe. Wait, it has to be because we haven't said it yet.
Yeah, we've said nothing so far.
All right, so we're at his 5 then?
Now number
we'll get
5.
Jarret's 5. Yep.
Okay.
So number 5, June 30th, 1997, Star Fox 64.
Let's go!
Yeah.
Let's go.
I just remember that Rumble Pack being announced with it.
Yeah.
That again, when you think of, it wasn't just the 3D that 64 was really bringing like the whole new world to us. Now you're able to feel Rumble, like you could feel it within the game.
Mm-hmm. Like it
And
made
so-
you feel more immersed.
Yes, it did. So you had this 3D, now you had the Rumble, and then I just think Star Fox 64, regardless, even without that, it's still a solid game. I mean, I think it's the best of the Star Fox games.
Oh, dude.
Well, there's a reason that
Easily.
they have only tried to basically retell the same story in every Star Fox since.
They can't progress. They
haven't figured out how to
retell.
do it better.
Yeah.
So this was one of the hardest games for me to keep off my list, but it did not make my list. But it is.
Wow, I'm very curious to see
This
what else
is
Chris has top
interesting.
5. I'm very curious.
too.
I love this game though. It has a very, very solid single player mode. I love the hidden paths. I love like I remember, what's the first level called? Corneria? Is it?
Corneria.
So I remember on that level finding, for the first time finding that path off to the side where you
Yep.
fight the secret boss. I remember being how exciting that felt. And then also the levels where you play as the tank were really cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Also the multiplayer was just a blast in this
That
game.
was fun too.
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, we played this a lot. The
Yeah,
multiplayer.
it's
Yeah.
surprising too because it did feel like a little bit of a footnote, like comparatively with how like incredible the campaign was, but like the multiplayer was addicting and really good.
It was
Played
fun,
all the time.
simple and fun.
Yep.
Yeah, it didn't make my list, but it was definitely in that, like, it was one of the ones in my 15 where it was like I was trying to figure it out and I was like, it just barely doesn't make the cut.
I wasn't sure where to put this. It did end up on my list. Like, but it could have been like, honestly, it could have been like 7. It could have been 8 even. Like I might have put this below Wave Race somehow. But then I remembered all the time I spent with it. And once you like play it again, because this is what I did, just similar to Wave Race. I was like, am I remembering this game the way I remember it? And I was like, yeah, it's a banger.
Oh yeah.
It's really. Oh yeah, this game's still incredible. Like there's a reason they relaunched it on 3DS. Like it's still that good. Like it aged that well. The music's good. Good multiplayer, but man, the campaign is so good. For those who haven't played it, please play it.
Yes, please.
There's honestly no reason not to, because it's aged very well. And it's very accessible. Like
Yeah.
it's not a very hard game. Like obviously it gets harder as it goes on, but it's a very accessible game. Like I don't feel like people of different skill sets couldn't pick it up and figure it out and get better at it as they play it a little bit more.
I feel like it's another one that's kind of hard to classify. Like this, to me, like I could see arguments for this being called a shmup. It's not. Like by criteria of the hardcores
Dude,
again.
if there are shmup fans that listen to this
They're
episode,
they're
literally probably pooping themselves in anger.
They vomited in their mouth already like
Right.
3
How
or
many
4
times
times.
you've compared games that aren't shmups to shmups?
I'm just saying, like this is technically what a space shooter on rails, right? Like that's how you describe this
yeah.
game. But like
I don't know what I would call
again,
it, but
genre wise,
not a
like
shmup.
it's not. But I mean, it's not like gameplay wise, there's a lot of similarity to it. Like you have baddies flying all around you. It's not bullet helly in the way that like shmups generally are, but there's bullets everywhere. Like this is not I wouldn't call this an easy play to me. Like it's not super hard, but like you do have to learn each level to get better at it. And it ends with a boss. And shmups always end with bosses. You know what I'm saying? And the bosses in this game are good, man. The bosses are really good.
They are really good. They're great.
One of my favorite memories with this is actually a lot more recent. My nephew Zach, who now is 23, but at the time was probably like 10 or 11. I back then, so this was early 2010s. I did a lot of thrifting at the time, so I'd end up getting like extra Nintendo 64s and stuff because at the time they were easy to find.
Yeah.
So I found one and I gave him one to put in his room, so him and my niece, his sister, would play it all the time. But Star Fox 64 was the game he loved. And even when I asked him if he wanted to submit any games, he was like, I don't remember much, but Star Fox 64 for sure. Like I loved it. And that was the first game he ever beat. Like I remember how excited he was when he beat it. Like he ran out to the living room or maybe my room, wherever I was. He was like, you got to come see that. And he wanted to show me that the credits were rolling, like
so
how
cool.
excited he was.
Oh,
I love that.
sweet.
So very good memory. He absolutely loved the game. Like I remember playing it with him. It's a fantastic game.
Being able to pick your path through the Lilat system, being like, having forks in the road essentially on the, the, I don't know if you called it, this would be an overworld map, would it? Because you're just picking, do I want to go to this planet or do I want to go to this planet? You know, like, do I want to go to, one of them was called Venom, right? Do I want to
Venom was at the very end.
Was it at the
That was the last
very end?
one.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Do I want to go to this one or that one? Wasn't there an underwater one too with like a frigate? Wasn't there like an
There
underwater
was
frigate?
the one submarine one. That was branch off to the left. Aquamarine.
I want to go back and play that one. I haven't played that one in a very long time. I wonder how Joel feels about that underwater mechanics on that one.
It is underwater.
I'm sure he'll chime in as soon as he hears this. Right? But this was just a great game. It was such a good game, and it's just good.
I feel like I got the badges on almost all the levels if I'm trying to remember, because I remember just playing that all the time, trying to get. I feel like almost someday.
If it wasn't
Not
for this
really.
game, we
It's probably
probably
not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
If it wasn't for this game, we wouldn't have Fox and Falco in Smash.
That's true.
Because there was no great Star Fox game after this. That's debatable amongst the hardcore Star Fox fans.
Star Fox Adventure is fun, but it's not Star Fox. It was a completely different game that they pasted Star Fox characters onto.
We're still waiting on the next great Star Fox game. That's the thing. Can you imagine?
A lot of people love Star Fox Assault, but I've never played it. I played it once with our friend Lewis, but like...
What system is that again?
GameCube as well.
I played like someone had it and we did the multiplayer, but I never played
That's the only one I've never played. The DS one, Star Fox Command, I did not like that game.
I think I told you recently I want to go back and play all the games because I've never played Star Fox 2 for one. I've played the Super Nintendo, obviously.
Well, 2 we didn't even have access to until the SNES Mini.
Yeah.
So
Now I have it on the Mini, and I think it's on NSO now too.
I think so, yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So, but anyways, this was a great game. Can you imagine if they launched Switch 2 with a brand new Star Fox game?
Man, that would be awesome.
That'd be so cool.
Star Fox Zero gets a lot of hate though, and like I really liked that game.
I never
You
played
remember
it.
when you came over that one time, you and Chris, and we like played through most of it multiplayer? I thought that was a really fun experience. Like I thought we all had fun. Am I wrong? Like the controls are kind of wonky, but
I
once
think
you
that's
get
the
used
problem
to it,
where it's wonky, so it's not as easy to get in when you think like a mass appeal. I think.
Yeah, I just felt like once you got used to it, it wasn't that bad. And it just took a little getting used to, but it wasn't like levels upon levels of trying to get used to the controller. By the end of the first level, we were kind of all like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was
and
all
had fun with it.
entertaining.
And it was kind of unique. Like some of the levels where you'd play that little, whatever it was, where you'd go through like the tunnels and stuff and you'd have to hack the system and stuff. Like that was cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not talking about Wii U, so.
Yeah, Star Fox had been kind of starved since this game came out, and it's because this game was that good.
So good.
That was your 5?
Yeah, that was my 5.
My 5 was Mario Kart 64, which we already talked about.
I'm a Wario. I'm gonna win.
I'm gonna win.
Moving on to Chris.
My baby dog wanted to sit with me.
Oh, she wants some attention.
She's like, Dad, you've been talking to your friends for too long.
Hey, that was rough.
This is going to be a long episode. We're only on 5 or 4 now.
This is great.
So we did 5. I did Ocarina of Time. You did Star Fox. James did Mario Kart. Okay. This was not on any of your lists. I guarantee it.
Ooh.
Oh, here we go.
My number 4
Oh, snap.
came out in September 2000. It's none other than Pokemon Puzzle League.
I should have pegged this.
I love this game.
It's for
So long story short, this just recently I was talking, or maybe I wasn't. I don't remember how it came up, but Christian, who's Bird Dog Gaming, posted that he finished Pokemon Puzzle League and how much he loved it. I was like, bro, yeah, like I love this game. And there's multiple tiers as to reasons why I love this game. One, I was a Tetris Attack fan. My mom loved Tetris Attack, and she wasn't like a huge gamer, but she would play stuff with me. And Tetris Attack, for anybody who doesn't know, was on Super Nintendo, and it had the Yoshi's Island characters.
Oh, I love that game. Yeah.
So, fantastic game. And, also a little backstory. This series, both Tetris Attack and Pokemon Puzzle League, are part of the Panel de Pon series, which is already very big in Japan.
Yep.
Which is, like a match 3 puzzle game. But instead of stuff falling from the bottom, or falling from the top, the level raises from the bottom, and you have to clear things, and you can make combos and stuff and clear your board or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
So anyway, I loved I loved Tetris Attack, and I loved Pokemon by the time this game came out. So I remember renting it at Hollywood Video, and my mom ended up playing it with me because she loved Tetris Attack, and she was like, and we played it like really late one night, and then after we turned it in, she went and bought it, like so that we had it, because she wanted to play it with me, and I loved it. I remember playing through it, beating. It was really cool because you pick your trainer, Ash, Brock, Misty, or any of the gym leaders and stuff, depending on what mode you're playing. And you'd have like 3 different Pokemon that you could pick from that you'd then go into level with. All of this means absolutely nothing. It doesn't affect anything. It doesn't make you better or worse. It just affects what the blocks look like. So like if you pick Charmander, they have like a fire look to them sometimes. I think maybe that's not even true. It just changes the background, really. So it was just kind of a cool novelty. But yeah, you play through the game, and once you get to the highest, you'd have to play through it a couple times to get the highest difficulty. And then on the highest difficulty, the final boss was a Mewtwo, which was really cool. So like I remember doing all that. I loved this game. It's still the Panel de Pon series across the board is still my favorite puzzle game. I can go back and play this or Tetris Attack any day of the week. I'm sure James remembers, like I would always try to get people to play Tetris Attack with me, and then later on this game too. I absolutely love it. But then and years later, like I already mentioned a little bit with Star Fox, I gifted my niece and nephew a Nintendo 64. They ended up moving up here and living with my parents, and at the time I was still living there too. So I gave them a 64, and I gave them a couple games, and one of them I gave them Star Fox, whatever else, but this was one of them, Pokemon Puzzle League, and they played it all the time too. Like it became something like we'd always play it. We'd take turns playing each other, and my niece specifically got so good at this game that I couldn't beat her. Like, and I'm really good at this game. Like, maybe not so much now, but I was really good. Like,
that hurts.
Nobody could beat me.
That's
but she
painful.
got so good at it that I mean, like, I'd win sometimes, but like she would consistently beat me.
So she let you win, basically.
I doubt it. But that is not in our blood to let people win.
Oh, believe me, I understand.
Anyway, like it's just I love this game. This will be on very few people's top 10 lists. Like I know if you interviewed 100 people, it might make 5 people's top 10 lists. Like I'm not saying it's a bad game. I think it's a great game. I just don't see it beating out a lot of other people's games.
I looked up probably 5 or 6 top 10 to top 20 lists of N64. This was usually fell between 10 and 15. I would say on a couple of them it did go top 10. So like I'm just like
more than I would have thought.
At least critically, you're not alone. Like this game is recognized as one of the greats. It really is.
Yeah, I mean it just did such a good job. It had animated cutscenes, so like it actually had like I think they were made for the game. Oh, interestingly enough too, I was going to mention this earlier. I didn't realize this until just this week when I was doing some research on stuff. This game never came out in Japan. Not this Pokemon Puzzle League. This was based off an engine for a game that eventually came out in Japan, like just another Panel de Pon game. But from what I can tell, this game did not come out in Japan.
So U.S. exclusive.
U.S. and Europe. It came
US
out in
and
Europe
Okay.
too. But I don't believe, unless it got ported later to some way. I thought that was really weird though. I would have never expected it being a Pokemon game. But great music because they used a lot of the songs from like that To Be a Master soundtrack that came out. They used a couple songs from the Pikachu's Vacation like short. And just
neat.
like all the sound bits, all the characters said little things when you'd get combos and stuff. Just a great game.
Honestly, I got to get this game just because it's a Pokemon game.
It's 100% one of the best multiplayer games on the console in my opinion. I absolutely love it. It was, when I say my top 5 are basically a lock, like I'm being very serious and I'm very comfortable with this being in my top 5. Like nothing but love for this game.
I knew when I saw this on list, I was like, this is going to be on Chris's list and probably I knew immediately because I knew how much you love this game. It does seem to be the consensus best Pokemon game on the 64. Like
that's interesting. I've never actually paid attention to that.
I mean, Pokemon Stadium 1 might be pretty high on some people's list, but like it was the first time we'd seen like all those Pokemon rendered in 3D and you could like carry your teams over and play, but most people, I remember even as a kid being like, this is slow compared to like Pokemon battles on the Game Boy at the time.
It was
like it took forever, like to the point where you'd spend more time playing the mini games on Pokemon Stadium, which is why Pokemon Stadium did not make my top 10. But it's still a fun game. But yeah, this game, you're not alone, dude. Lots of people love this game. I didn't spend any time playing it because puzzle games at the time wouldn't have been my thing. They still aren't to some degree, but like
I've always loved puzzle games.
Yeah.
But yeah, this has always been my favorite, this series. This is one that I have the cartridge, I have the manual. I've never owned it complete though. I think my mom might have bought it used. I think she bought it off of eBay or something. But I need to get a box because I want to complete it and have this complete. Because this is, like I said, top 5 64 games.
I would bet physically this is one of the more expensive N64 titles because
I think
the
it's
Pokemon.
less than 100.
Really?
Yeah, which some people might think like, well, it's got to be one of the more expensive. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a 64 game that's actually on the cheaper side complete.
I have to do a collector's edition at some point. But
all right, so that was my number 4. Jer Bear?
All right, so my number 4, released June 29th, 1998, Banjo-Kazooie.
nice choice.
I played that game like bonkers. Yeah, just
Like Conkers?
like Conkers, almost. But his family didn't die. Banjo's family didn't die, I don't think.
Thank goodness.
I don't know. But that was kind of my first real kind of collectathon game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a good platform, just fun levels, fun style. Rare was just really killing it with a lot of games. And
No doubt.
And the game's hilarious too.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
funny. It's funny.
Kazooie and what's the mole's name? both Goggles or something.
I think
like,
it's Goggles.
they're hilarious. Like they're so off key. Like it's very much so like 90s cartoon humor.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not super kid friendly a lot of times.
That's what made it great.
Yeah, 100%.
I just remember replaying that or bringing that over to friend's house when we're all playing that. Just all the levels were just unique, had all that style. Like the humor was great, just the character. I just loved everything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great game, dude. Like a lot of people say, in many regards, it was more creative and interesting than Super Mario 64. Like more forward thinking and just took like platformer to the next level. And I would agree. Honestly.
I would agree with that.
I played this game, loved this game, love it still. It didn't make my list. And I feel like this is my personal sin on the list because I remember on Discord when we brought up the subject initially. Remember, like I shot off my like top 10 off the top of my head, and Banjo-Kazooie wasn't on it. And then I was like, oh, and Banjo, and now I realize why that happened. Like on some level, subconsciously, like I love Banjo, but I don't see it as one of my favorite games on the 64, and I can't help that. Like.
No,
I think it's I do think it's a great game. I still have it. I had never played Banjo-Tooie, but I did play this to the end, and I think it's a great game. I know why everyone is in love with it and is obsessed with it because it was just so much fun and whimsical and just full of heart.
Yeah, the level design was fantastic.
Oh gosh, level like the verticality and just it just soared to like a new height in terms of like 3D platformers.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it just didn't quite make my cut.
it didn't make mine either, and it was barely like this was in both. So
Yeah, me too.
I have a little bit of I've said this before, but I have a little bit more love for Tooie because I owned Banjo-Tooie. I didn't own Banjo-Kazooie, but I played it. And I loved Tooie. I thought it was fantastic. I really loved the first person shooter levels in it. But at the end of the day, when the hardest game for me to cut off the list was I had the group together because I hadn't been able to figure out how to separate them, because as I've gone back and played them since, I think I like Banjo-Kazooie more, but I have more nostalgia for Banjo-Tooie. But they were the hardest to cut off the list.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, I really love these games.
Yep.
But like I was like, but my top 7, like none of them are removable. Like they are on this list. There's not a world where I take these off this list.
Yeah.
And when it came to those bottom 3, the 8, 9, and 10, I was just like, 2 of them are rare games. Two, like I was just like, it came down to pure nostalgia, memories, and like some of that. Like more than I'm not, like I said, 100 times over, I'm not claiming they're the better games because I don't know that that's true.
Wait, what was the release date on this game again?
The release was June 29th, 1998.
I think one of the reasons this game got lost in the shuffle is because Pokemon came out right after it. Probably just about. So like I remember buying it. I don't remember if we bought it at launch, but I think some of the games that came out in 1998, they definitely like got lost in like the Pokemon sensation. And this could be one of the casualties of that.
Well, the casualties of Pikachu.
Oh, Pika.
Yeah, it was a great game, but I agree. For me, it was the most painful game to keep off the list. And people are going to go back and they'll be like, you picked No Mercy over Banjo. And
Man, I don't think that's true though. I think more people will be upset that I put Ocarina of Time at 5 than they will be that you put No Mercy.
You're probably right, but that's unreasonable because you still put it on your top 5 because you realize how good of a game it is. You still gave it respect. Like I gave Banjo the axe. Like
I mean, so did I.
I was like, I can only bring 10 kids on the ark and Banjo, look at that, and then I closed the door.
Sorry, Banjo. Dude, I love you.
As he's drowning.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm sorry, Banjo. Anyways, it was a great game, undeniably great game.
Yeah.
To this day, and I really another game that where Microsoft, what are you doing?
Oh,
where are you at?
Oh,
Where are you at?
Oh,
they're
Nintendo.
buying Activision. They're busy.
They're
really busy.
They're busy making lots of one really big Call of Duty game, I guess.
Yep.
Oh, wait, to be fair, respect to Microsoft. That
Their showcase was the best.
That was so good.
Yeah.
That was
they blew into Sony's out of the water.
Dude,
Sony's showcase was so lame. Like, other than Astrobot, which I'm super excited for,
I'm excited for that too.
that showcase was so mid.
You could make a case for this being maybe the best Xbox showcase ever. Like, just
I don't know that I know of a better one.
the only property that didn't get addressed was Halo.
Yeah.
Like that I can think off the top of my head. You know,
and
like,
Banjo.
Oh,
Banjo.
yours, my bad.
Bird and Bear.
We're okay, so not the best showcase.
Okay.
That would have sent people over the top if Banjo made the. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now see, this is what I'm saying. I feel so torn. I do love Banjo. What?
Just not enough.
Why did I leave it out? I'm sorry, Banjo.
Not enough.
Okay, let's move
Dude,
on.
the ending and when you die in Banjo and get a game over, and Grunty puts herself in that machine with whatever the sister's name is, Tootsie. That sounds right. Tootsie to Tootsie. And she changes, she like makes her ugly and becomes beautiful and is like all kinds of sexy. And you're like, what is this game? It's crazy.
As a young boy, I was like, what am I feeling?
Well, I'm straight.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, we all would have been prepubescent, I suppose.
Yeah.
At that.
Figuring things out.
Yeah.
I'm very honest that my sexual awakening is when I saw Halle Berry and the Flintstones.
What did that movie?
I was pretty young, but I knew what I liked at that point.
Was that pre-Storm Halle Berry or was that post-Storm?
That was like 8 years before Storm.
Oh God.
Dude, if you haven't seen the Flintstones in a minute, like Halle Berry in the Flintstones is fine.
Oh God. Was there a Flintstones game on 64? Can we do a smooth transition somehow out of that?
No, what was your number 4, James? I got no shame. Jasmine knows this.
Hey, I mean, Halle Berry she's a beautiful woman, so it is what it is. Anyways, 4.
I might have to give this episode an explicit tag.
Star Fox 64. We talked about it. Do a barrel roll. Who's next?
Great game. All right, my number 3. Maybe this is on James's list, but I think at the top 3, it's probably out. I love this game, man. Like.
He's shaking his head.
I know for a fact that this game does not deserve to be on the top 3 list, the top 3 best 64 games of all time.
It's about to get spicy.
But I love this game. I absolutely love it. Shadows of the Empire.
Let's go!
Okay.
I don't blame you.
I have nothing but love for this game, and I just the other day, so on the Unlockable podcast, which is the Bird Dog Gaming podcast that he does with Gamer Girl Advance, they were talking about Star Wars games. Excuse me. And she mentioned liking a 64 Star Wars game and couldn't remember what it was called. So once I heard that, I posted on the Bird Dog Discord, like, it was Shadows of the Empire. Like, if you go back to play it now, you might not like it as much, because I know for a fact nostalgia goggles really help how much I love this game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it
does, for sure.
It doesn't control well, but man, I don't even care. Like, about 10 years ago or so, I went through this game again, and I was just like, I love this game. Like, I knew as I was playing it, like, this game is not aged like I remember, but it didn't matter. It was still just as much fun. And to be fair, to start off any game, so a little backstory. I think we've talked about this game before, like, but for anybody who doesn't know, a little backstory. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire takes place in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. It was a huge deal at the time because this was before the prequel started coming out, and it was the LucasArts. They were trying to kind of branch out a little bit more into the media. Obviously, the books were already going at this point and kind of getting like keeping Star Wars alive. But Shadows of the Empire was a huge multimedia opportunity. They released comics, they released a book, they released the soundtrack, they released the game on the 64. And action figures and everything based off of this game. And it worked for me. Like, I remember being excited for this game. Mm-hmm. I remember, like I said, I didn't have a 64 for a few years, but I remember going to James's house to play it. I remember going to my friend Nick's house to play it. I freaking loved this game. I could not get enough of this game. And you start out in the first level on the Battle of Hoth.
Yep.
And you start off in a snowspeeder. So just like, if you've seen Empire Strikes Back, just like Luke, going to wrangle up the AT-ATs with your cable, whatever it's called. And it's just such a good way to start that game because at this point, anybody who's going to play this game has seen Empire Strikes Back. So now they're already kind of drawn in by a scene that they're familiar with from the movies that plays extremely well, mind you. Like the rest of the game, the controls get kind of wonky. This plays very well still.
Yeah.
But then after that, they introduced who was probably one of the coolest characters to be introduced in Star Wars outside of the original movies. And that's Dash Rendar, who is also a smuggler like Han. And there was some history there. They have a couple of cutscenes where they talk because they knew each other. Very cool character, very much so like Han and Lando, where he's a little bit suave, a little bit like, I'm not a good guy, but I can't help myself. I'm going to help the good guys. And just like a cool character, cool cutscenes, fantastic music. Like they pulled a lot from the actual movies, but they made a lot of their own stuff too. Each level had the challenge coins that were hidden in the level where you had to try to like figure out how to find them. That unlocked, like extra like cheats and stuff that you could use in the game later. The Wampas were terrifying when you'd open a door and see a Wampa behind it.
It's so good.
There's some of the levels, like the train level where you fight IG-88 at the end.
Oh man, that's the one that sticks in my mind from this game.
Because it's almost like a horror level too.
It was
it's terrifying.
The strangest game. That was just,
But that level, the level where you fight Boba Fett, you get a jetpack and you get to fight Boba Fett, super cool.
Super long level.
It's a very long level. It's very frustrating when you get a game over. The Dodonga, the level where you go deep into whatever level it is and you have to fight the Dodonga.
The sewers.
Who, if anybody who might not recognize the name, is the creature that basically pulls Luke under the water in the trash compactor in A New Hope. You fight one of those. Just a great game. The space levels are good. Every level is good. It is a level that I can't recommend to a lot of people because I know that nostalgia helps me a lot and my pure love for Star Wars is very strong. But I love this game. Like it's just, to me, it's fantastic. It was mind-blowing at the time. Like I loved Star Wars so much and being able to see this world. Dash Rendar was so cool. The Outrider, his ship was fantastic. I don't know. I love it. So
you won't get any heat for me putting it on your top 10. This was one of the ones that like kept shuffling back and forth on and off the list for me, including Banjo. It was those two. Those are like my two children that I was like, I do love you, but not, bye.
Not as much as that kid.
But yeah, dude, this game is so weird. Like I don't know how to describe it. It feels like a weird kind of like I don't know, test demo in some aspects, and that like each level is so different from the next one. It feels like some are like third person shootery, like exploration platformer. Like you said, some are like spacecrafts in space shooting asteroids, and
Then you have the swoop bike level.
The swoop bike level.
I remember that.
Yeah. Well, even the I'm trying to think. Even the sewer one with the Dodonga, is that what you said? Don't you have like a jetpack in that one too? So
I think so. You're like you have to like fly up and like shoot down at it.
Yeah. So like that even changes the platforming right there. Like every level is a little different from each other, and then the one that sticks out to me, like you said, is the IG-88 one in the junkyard, and is it Ord Mantell is where it's at?
Yeah, I think so.
You're just going on this train. You're just taking this train ride, and the meanwhile you're blasting people. You're trying to grab challenge points. And
the train doesn't stop.
The train doesn't stop.
The challenge points are almost all above you, so you have to like time yourself to like get them as the level's moving on.
Like it reminds me in a weird way of like Indiana Jones or something. You know how like scenes where you're jumping from one rail cart to the next. It's kind of like that. And like the first time you play this, you don't realize the horror that you're going to.
Hearing IG-8 babble his sound effects,
terrifying.
And you have no idea where he's at, and all of a sudden he just lands right next to you and just starts blasting you.
Those scary mechanical noises as he gets closer to, like that was such a good level, and it's such a good boss at the end, like scary.
And it was great too because the game, it was getting more common at this point, but it actually saved your progress. So you didn't, once you got to a level, you had to start the level over, but you didn't have to start from the beginning. You could start from the beginning of that level, which was, like I said, was getting more common at this point, but it still felt kind of nice.
I can't,
because like the other Star Wars games to this point didn't let you do that.
Yeah, I can't argue that this is the best Star Wars game even on the console. I do think Rogue Squadron is a better game, and I also had a great time playing that. But this was a game that we experienced separately, right? You couldn't play this with friends. You played this alone, and like I think a lot of people came to the same conclusion. The first time they played it, it was like an incredibly special experience that you didn't forget. especially if you were Star Wars fans, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a great game. The only complaint I might make, not it being on your top 10, but it being in front of Ocarina of Time. That's the only thing I can make a complaint about. But
Yeah.
I get it, though.
I like it more.
I get it. Is it tough to... Yeah.
But like I said, in all respect to Ocarina of Time, if somebody asked me what 264 games to play, I would say Ocarina of Time.
You did
so
say that.
it's not a...
Yeah.
This is my personal list.
Yeah.
This was why I didn't want to do a ranking system where we had to because I knew my
games.
list would be different.
Too many games to do that in this situation.
'Cause we're only at 3. I know that my number 2 isn't on anybody else's list.
But before we go to that with Time Out Shadows of the Empire, because I played that game a lot too, where another fan of that game that does the video edits of Star Wars for that Empire Strikes Back, Adiwan, he liked that game, and so on one of the backgrounds, one of the doors has that yellow symbol with the Wampa symbol.
Oh, really?
Put on one of the doors.
That's awesome. What a nice
I saw the little
touch.
Easter egg, yeah.
Nice.
That's so cool.
Wampa Stompa. What did that code do again? I can't remember.
I
Play as the Wampa?
Yeah,
think you either play as him or it makes them friendly, where they'll walk through and
Oh, yeah, because you're able to attack troopers.
Yeah, I don't remember now, but I remember that when I played the Old Republic, we named our guild Wampa Stompa.
Wampa Stompa.
And man, the first time you play that ATST in the hangar in the second level, that was a great level, by the way, with
Really good.
earthquakes and like canyons emerging, and you having to walk like a tightrope to move along. Yeah, and the platforming wasn't great. I remember that's becoming very clear, just thinking about it in my head. That's why it doesn't age very well, and in hindsight. But there were things about this game that were really incredible, and still are. I feel like
Memories.
Yeah, I love it, but I know at least part of it is nostalgia goggles. So, well, Jer Bear, what's your number 3?
Number 3, October 26, 2000, Majora's Mask.
let's go. Let's go.
I know. Definitely had to put that one on there because that's still in my beloved. Still have that memories of getting the game, and I just, I like the style, the story behind it, just what they were able to do a year later. I mean, they reused the assets, but they still made a different game, not just.
It wasn't just
number 2, the sequel of
yeah.
it. They really did something very unique with it, something very different. Still, just beloved in that sense, and. I like the mask, and I will say this with the 3DS version. When I compare these two, or I think we were talking about that in every conversation, where we know we had the Ocarina of Time, then the 3DS version, Majora's Mask, and then the 3DS version. I still think the 64 is the definitive because they made some changes to the 3DS that kind of took they went to the saying, don't fix if it ain't broke. They fixed it in areas that weren't broke, so then they kind of.
They ruined it a bit.
They ruined it a little bit. I'll say one example, so it's not a long conversation. So as the Deku, where you had to go on the lily pads, you do a little spin dash to go faster. They removed that in the 3DS, so there's no momentum. So then you have to perfectly time it, and so it's so much slower. And if you're just off by a little bit,
Okay.
so they did things like that where they did some weird changes for the Zora for swimming. Before in 64, you can do the regular fast swimming. You could do the barrier stuff.
Yeah.
But you could do the fast swimming.
Yeah.
3DS, you only could do fast if you have the shield, the using the shield thing, but then that drains your magic. So then when you're out of it, you can't fast swim in that big open ocean.
Oh, interesting.
So they did some weird things like that where it's I don't know why they did that, but they did.
Yeah.
So that's where I like the 64 more.
I think part of it was they were trying a lot of the changes they made in the 3DS versions. I had thought in my head from reading articles and stuff were they were supposed to be quality of life changes, but I feel like some of the changes they made too were also to differentiate it, maybe even justify why are we releasing this game unless we do some new things. We got to clean it up, we got to polish it anyways. Maybe we're just going to shake up some... I'm sure they had reasons for these changes. I don't know what they are if they don't seem like quality of life changes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's one of those where I remember when I played, it's this is weird why they did that. They're changing things up that didn't need it.
Necessarily need it, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's just me.
Yeah, that's fair. No, it's a great game. Many people would say it's their favorite Zelda game on the 64. A lot of people would say it's their favorite Zelda game, period. But that's because the quality level of this game and Zelda games in general is just
they're
way
good.
up there, So it's an incredible game.
I should play the 64 version one of these days.
You really should.
It's one of at one point I was trying to build a complete 64 collection, which I gave up on years ago and sold a lot of the games. But it's one game I've never owned at any point in my... It's probably the only first-party game I've never owned, which is kind of odd.
Well, that kind of fits. Remember we were going over that list on Discord to emotional effect about how like based on like units sold, Majora's Mask was like bottom 3 or something, maybe bottom 2. Like it was shockingly low amounts of sales compared to other Zelda games, and so I was trying to say, this means this means that a lot less people have played it, which I guess it could be true. I'm making a little bit of a jump, a little bit of an assumption there, but like I mean, based on sales, a lot of people probably haven't played this game that have played a lot of other Zelda games, and that's a tragedy because this game is so good. It's so good.
That conversation got out of hand because I responded to you and I was like, I was literally just being like, just it doesn't keep like my only like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like example was the original Zelda was pretty low on that list. And I was like, at this point, that game has been played. I've never bought a version of that game. That's what I was trying to say. Like a lot of people have never bought that game, but I've played it on multiple consoles since. Yeah. And I borrowed it. I'm like, there's no way that game is as low as it says it is because more people have played it. That's the only thing I was saying. But then like, all I know is I remember looking at it like 12 hours later and being like, what the heck happened?
It blew up, dude. It blew up.
Like I wasn't I wasn't even trying to be controversial or anything. I was just trying to state what I felt like was a fact.
I wasn't either with my statement. I was like, this is a jump, but you could probably equate this with. But Joel got involved, so this is what happens sometimes.
Classic Joel.
Joel, we love you. I do this too. I start fights, Joel, too. So it's cool.
Dude, if you haven't realized it yet, Joel literally just starts fights with you because you're easy.
He knows I'm like ready to fight.
He's figured out how to push your buttons.
I'm ready.
Man.
I'm ready to defend my stances.
That's so funny.
I won't back down.
I watch it happen sometimes. I'm like, there's so many times where I'll be talking to Jasmine or my friend Kel, and I'll be like, I'll see Joel say something. I'm like, 5 minutes or less. James can say something. James can.
And Kel keeps biting. He keeps taking bets.
He's taking.
You know me too well. He should know this.
Yeah. I think he tries to give you the benefit of the doubt.
Hey, just know that when people say stuff about my friends, I come to their defense at the same speed,
just like he does for Zelda.
Same intensity. Okay. Anyways, Majora's Mask, guys, is incredible. If you haven't played it as a Zelda fan, my goodness, play this game.
Please.
It's so good. It's so good.
I need to play it again. I need to play it on 64.
Yes,
I
sir.
think truly get the right experience, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, what's your number 3?
Number 3. This might be the game I feel second most strongly about.
I'm trying to figure out what it is. Like
once I say it, you're gonna be like, duh.
Yeah, because it's not Zelda or Mario.
So I had an issue. Like I wanted to put 2 games on this list, but I was like, it doesn't make sense to put both these games on the list.
Oh, it's Perfect Dark.
It's Perfect Dark.
Yeah. There it is. Yep.
It's Perfect Dark. And goodness, I don't know. Like you could make an argument for this game being like top 2 for me, like in terms of like how much I value it and played it and enjoyed it. Guys, GoldenEye 007 was incredible, right? That's the one everybody's played. That's the one that set the world on fire. It exposed an FPS to people for the very first time. It was still to this day, maybe arguably the most fun multiplayer experience on the 64.
It's not arguable. It is not the most fun multiplayer game on the 64.
Well
anymore, especially.
At
the time it was.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a huge deal when it got relaunched on Xbox and Switch. People were just like, I can't wait to play this game again. There was some nostalgia goggles factor, as we've referred to. Mm-hmm. But Perfect Dark is like better. And not just better, like I think it's a lot better.
It's unequivocally better.
It's like so much better. So guys, this game, just to like a short history lesson, was supposed to be the sequel to that game, GoldenEye 007. And from what I understand, Rare lost the bid for the license. I think EA, Electronic Arts, won the bid, and so all of a sudden they couldn't use the property of 007 James Bond anymore. And so they had to they created their own property, Perfect Dark. It's based on this. It's a spy shooter, just like GoldenEye is, but it's based on this character named Joanna Dark. It's like sci-fi futuristic. It's actually set in the year 2023. So now that's in the past. But
that's right.
Where's my laptop gun?
Where's your laptop? Thank you for bringing up the laptop gun, guys. It's just bettered 007 in every single way.
Yeah, I don't know there's one way that it's not better.
The campaign was better. the multiplayer was better, the weapons were better, the graphics were better. Like, so what I've heard is that they were like, it took 3 years to develop this game, and I think halfway through, it sounds like the first half of the development cycle was really, really rough. Like, there were a lot of people bumping heads. It was like an ugly thing, and like half of the development team like left, including the director or like the project manager on the game. Like, there was like no agreement on this. And then what Rare did, from what I'd read, I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos on this because I was like very curious. They hired like 3 times the amount of employees to the team, so they had like 3 or 4 times the amount of people on the dev team that they had for GoldenEye, for Perfect Dark. And they're like, we already have this story, we already have this premise, we're trying to make basically a spiritual successor to GoldenEye. And like, but they basically had no director, no project manager apparently. So everyone's just like throwing ideas at the wall. They're like, this is cool, and everything stuck. And so like it ended up being this beautiful, like nearly GameCube-esque quality game in terms of like visuals and like frame rate and everything. And it's an incredible game. Like it's again, it's set in, it's futuristic sci-fi. Like there's these 2 warring alien factions, and then there's like these 2 human companies that like Joanna Dark represents one of them. And the story is really good. It's mission based, just like GoldenEye, but just better. The weapons are so good. Like you said, laptop gun, right? Like most of the weapons in this game had a secondary function. So like laptop gun was like an automatic, I don't know, shooter.
Like a turret, like a
kind of like turret based, but like, yeah, you could like flip it and throw it on the wall or on the ground, and it acted like as a sentry gun. So somebody walked by and it targeted. There was like a dragon assault rifle where it was like same thing. Like it was an assault rifle, but like once it ran out of ammo, you could click it into its secondary, throw it on the ground, and it became a proximity mine. We've talked about the most famous weapon in this game, the Farsight, right? Like, it was
Shoot through walls.
It was a gun
It was a wall hack gun.
It was a wall hack gun. Like it was like something that people actually do in competitive shooters now, and they get like banned for doing it. But you could do it in this game, and it was part of the process. Like, you would walk in on your friends, like, and they'd be, because you had to zoom to make it work, and all of a sudden it would be all like not monochromatic, but it was like you looked like you were seeing things the way Predator sees things, and you were looking for heat signatures, and you see a body running around, and you'd be like, bunk, and they're gone.
Bye-bye.
But you're so vulnerable when you're using it, so like friends would they'd walk up a ramp, and you'd be like looking into the corner of a wall trying to aim it, and you're just like slap them on the back of the shoulder. Like, it was such an interesting game. There was co-op, so you could play this incredible campaign with friends. The multiplayer was highly, highly customizable. One of the really cool things I liked too was once missions were completed in solo or co-op mode, they unlocked this mode called counter-op mode. I had completely forgotten about this, but it's basically a competitive version of the campaign where one player controls Joanna Dark, so you're like player 1, and but your buddy, or player 2, controls the bodies of various enemy NPCs as they try to stop player 1 in the campaign. And so like whenever player 2's current NPC, which is going to be lower, it's going to be underpowered compared to Joanna Dark. Once they die, they take the body of another NPC in the game.
Dude, I don't remember this at all.
It's great. And does that sound familiar at all? Because it was inspired by The Matrix. You know how the agents in The Matrix would...
Dude, they just went off.
They would just change bodies interchangeably, that was inspired by The Matrix. Like, this game had like influences, heavy influences from... the X-Files, the TV show. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other ones. Ghost in the Shell, like the manga, heavily inspired by, like, it had all these...
Matrix was heavily inspired by Ghost in the Shell, so that makes sense.
Yeah, like all these like futuristic sci-fi. It's like I said, all these guys came together. They had to like finish this game, and they just threw stuff against the wall, and it made this incredible FPS that to this day is praised. It's one of the it is hands down one of the best games on the 64 to this day. It's still very playable. It's still very good, and there's a reason why when they announced Perfect Dark in the showcase this weekend, people were like, "Let's go." Although I do wonder if they'll be able to do it justice.
I mean, I know Perfect Dark Zero, which was a 360 launch game, wasn't as good, nearly as good. From what I understand, never played it, but
But it makes sense, right? Like, when you develop a game, there has to be structure. There has to be somebody taking the lead and trying to keep things under control. And normally, you're not just going to be able to take all these random ideas and be like, "Sure, we'll do that. Sure, we'll do that. Sure, he's got to draw the line somewhere." And in this game, it seems like they just didn't. They're just like, "We'll do whatever." Like,
let's see what happens.
I remember playing this game with you and my uncle and Jordan and so many people and just having a blast.
It was fun. Like, I never played it that much because it was so late in the cycle. Like, it didn't last as long, but I remember really enjoying it. And one of the things that really sticks with me is probably about, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, me and my friend Caleb booted it up, and I was kind of like, I don't feel like playing this. Like, because in my mind, I was like, GoldenEye aged so bad, like, I don't want to play this. But then we started playing it, I was like, dang, man, this game's way better than I remember. Like, it has aged really well. It actually controls pretty well.
Yeah, it does.
Because GoldenEye doesn't.
No.
I don't remember why it felt different, but it did.
Yeah.
And did you mention that in the multiplayer mode that there's bots?
Yeah. No, I didn't. But that's a really good point.
Because that, to me, was like what really made it stand out. Because it took... Obviously, 4-player multiplayer was always great, and it was something to do. But now, all of a sudden, this is before online play. Now we can play like other people. We can play these bots that give us more to do in a multiplayer match. It added to the replayability a ton.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Could you go 4v4? I think because of that. I think it was up to 8.
You could even do more than that. I think
you could team up with your friends against bots, and like I remember one time
it made it less versus for the first time. Like, we could actually work together.
I remember playing a challenge. It could have been with you or with Jordan, but it was like one of these challenges where there were these 2 expert level aliens. They were really short, a la Oddjob kind of sorta, and they move at like lightning speed, and you're trying to, and you're just, it's terrifying. It's very similar to IG-88, and you're like, I know it's coming, but I don't know where it is, and all of a sudden you're just getting blasted, and you're like, you and your friends are just terrified, and it just sounds so dumb, but like that, this game is like, it's so dumb, all the things they threw into it, and it just works so well. Speaking of the bots, like co-op mode, if you didn't have a friend, you could assign a bot to be your co-op player with you. So like if you wanted help in a really tough level, if you wanted to play hard mode or whatever, you could get help from a bot in co-op.
That's cool.
Like, they did so many things that so many games never did before, and so many shooters still don't do after.
Yeah, for a 64 game, it was really advanced. It really was.
Guys, I'm telling you, watch a video on this game, like what makes it so good, because you're going to be surprised by how much they did in this game. It's bonkers. It's conkers.
It's conkers.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Hey, Rare.
Rare, man.
Rare was really killing it.
Where are you at, Rare?
Without Rare, the 64 would have been a shell.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have had nearly as much quality. They did a lot of bangers.
Yeah.
It didn't make my list, but purely because the amount of time I spent playing it was very minimal.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, like, I didn't have a lot to go off of, but like I said, the last time I played it, which wasn't that long ago, I was thoroughly impressed by how well I felt like it aged.
Yeah. Oh, it's yeah. I think, again, like, if you're talking about the list of what aged the best, I think this and Wave Race 64 are like
pretty high up there.
Pretty high on my list, at least.
Yep. So you're number 3, Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark.
All right. Well, now we're up to the top 2. So, any guesses as to what my number 2 is? If you think hard enough, you might be able to get it. Jarret, I don't think you get it.
I might need a hint or something, but it might just give it away immediately, so it might not be fair for you. Trying to think. What have we not talked about?
It's obviously the Superman game, right?
So good. Oh, man. How'd you figure it out?
Oh, God.
It's Blues Brothers 2000.
Give me genre. Does it give it away?
I don't think... Farming sim.
Does it rhyme with Barvest Boone?
Oh my God, it does!
Whoa!
How'd you get that? This is before Farming Sims were a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Harvest Moon 64.
That's cool.
Okay, so this list, a lot of what this list was too, was how likely I am to replay it at any given time, how much I really enjoyed it. So it came out December 21st, 1999. So we were playing it just before we thought that the world was going to end because of Y2K.
Yep.
So this was my first time playing Harvest Moon. At this point, we already had the Super Nintendo one and maybe a Game Boy one as well, but I didn't play any of them. I never even really heard of the series until this game came out, and I don't know. It's if I was to sit there and try to explain a farming sim to somebody and they were like, that sounds real dumb, I would 100% understand, because there's no way to explain a farming sim and it sound fun. But as a kid and even as an adult, I loved and love farming sims. And I can admit now, like, Stardew Valley is leaps and bounds better than Harvest Moon 64. Like, and there's other ones too that are better than this game now.
Sure.
And even just on the Harvest Moon scale, I like Back to Nature more than I like Harvest Moon 64, and that came out on PS1 a few years later. But on the pure, if I was to actually rank them, I would probably still put Harvest Moon 64 higher because of how much appreciation and love I have for this game. So obviously, basic farming sim, you inherit a farm from your dead grandpa, and you have to bring it up, make it better, grow your house, get to know the townsfolk, all that stuff. There's a handful of reasons why I really like this game. One, I thought it was really cool that you being able to grow all your crops and stuff, get your animals, like get your farm into this like growing its own self-sufficient like economy almost, where you're making money and everything. I really liked that. But frankly, if they took the farming aspect out of the game and it was just the get to know the townsfolk stuff, like I probably would have still played it and had just as much fun, because I love the relationship building stuff. Like I like that every character had more context to them, that you got to know the more close that you got to them. Obviously, they're in this game you can only play as a male character, and obviously in this game you have the female characters that you can romance and marry one of them. And that was fantastic. I loved that. I thought that was super cool. And I always, Karen and Anne were the two that I always went to. And Anne's a redhead, so
let's go.
Little representation.
Gotta
for,
stick
for
together.
James there. But you could get married, and you can eventually have a kid. Grow your house, make meals. It just sounds so redundant. Like this is stuff as adults we do in life every day, but it's so much fun in these games. But one of the things I really love about this game, that they don't do a lot of this anymore in these games because it's a little too adult, I guess. But like I remember, and I guess this is a spoiler, but I don't know that anybody cares. I remember there's an older lady in the game. She's obviously elderly, and she sits in like a rocking chair out in the yard, and you can go talk to her. And if you grow your friendship enough with her, literally she dies.
Oh.
And that is not the reason I'm saying that isn't because I'm trying to be funny or anything. It's because like I remember as a kid being like, what the heck? Like she literally, like their characters literally mourn her afterwards. Like she is dead and she is gone. She is no longer in the game.
That's
like
rough.
it's like it's a deep stuff. You can go to the bar and like drink and pass out. Like they now in these games don't even usually have alcohol. Like, and like that's not like, it's not a selling point, but it's kind of funny to me. Like it also teaches you that you can't just go and overdrink or else there's consequences. There's a character in the game that has an alcohol problem. There's a couple and they like touch on it. I think I like that this older game had a little bit more real life like
theme
than they do now. They like to keep it very like low key and G-rated, and that's okay too. But I just like it's very deep. And then there's other things too, like the horse racing, like was an event. They had all these seasonal events that would come up that you always look forward to. The horse racing was really fun. There's just a lot going on in this game, and for 64, like it felt like most games didn't have a lot going on a lot of the times. So I think that is one of the reasons why it really like sat home with me back then. Like, but if you look at my 64 right now, this is literally the game that is in there, because I will still load up my save file that I made somewhat more recently and play through a couple days here and there. I really enjoy this game. Its music is great. It just, I feel like it's aged pretty well. I mean, it's in comparison kind of bare bones to a lot of games, but in a way I kind of like that. So it's kind of makes it more simple. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoy this game. And it's easily one of the games I go back to most on 64. So
nice.
It's 100% easily my top two. And for anybody who wants to play it, it is on Nintendo Switch Online now. So that is kind of nice.
I must have missed that. Well, I was too fixated on Wave Race 64. So that makes sense. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, not a lot of the games are obviously other than the obvious Mario's, Zeldas, and stuff, but that one is. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's my number 2. Jarret Bear.
That's cool.
Jarret Bear. All right. Number 2. 9/29, 1996.
9/29.
Oh, Super Mario 64.
Super Mario 64. That's my number 2 as well.
Yep.
So we know what comes next.
Yep.
This.
I mean, what can you say about Super Mario 64? Just the game that started it all on the 64. Seeing Mario in 3D, you're able to fly, you're able to swim. It was just such a cool concept of using Peach's castle and the paintings and just everything about it, the music and the different bosses, characters, fighter, all of it.
It's one of those games like you did it right there. It makes you make that like you just you sit back and you're like, oh, this is such a good game. It's so good.
Yeah, it's my number one.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. Like for me, the top two are like interchangeable almost. It's a lot like when we did Super Mario World versus Super Mario Brothers 3. I'm like, I don't blame you at all for making either of these your number one.
Yeah. It's I don't know where it would rank in my favorite games of all time because I've never really truly sat down and made that list, but I know it would be high.
Yeah.
Like I said before, if somebody asked me definitive games that they should play, so like that they've never played before, 64 or not, this game would be one I would say across the board.
Yeah.
It's 100% a game I feel like this might come off as offensive. I don't mean it that way, but I feel like if you want to consider yourself a gamer, you have to play Mario 64 at some point.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Whether or not you finish it or not, I feel like you have to play it. Like it's almost like a rite of passage. Like it's so iconic. I mean, Bob-omb Battlefield is, the music starting when you walk in there, that open world. Obviously, the castle, like you already mentioned, is already like very iconic in its own. But jumping through the painting in Bob-omb Battlefield and seeing that what felt massive level right in front of you with all of these different objectives that you can do was just so unique. And I mean, running up there and fighting the King Bob-omb it was super cool. And then the game only gets better. And somebody recently, I don't remember where I heard it. I want to say it was one of the guys on the Generations Behind podcast said that the latter half of the game isn't as good as the beginning half. And I do agree with that. Once you get to the latter levels, they're not as memorable. But man, that first half of the game is just, it's stunning. Like, every level, the snow level, throwing the baby penguin off the side, like everybody did that because we're all a bunch of sickos.
Yeah, baby.
The desert level or the lava level where you can ride the turtle shell across the level, across the lava.
Cool.
I mean, looking up into the top of the castle and unlocking the ability to fly.
Oh my goodness,
that was super cool.
Magical.
And then, of course, Dire Docks.
Oh,
probably
God.
one of the best songs in video game. Like, it's just so peaceful and so like iconic.
Those eels in the pit. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
the star on its tail.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. I love this game. It's I don't know. It's one of the best games of all time.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's aged extremely well.
It has aged very well, and it's had glow ups too in different versions of the game.
Yeah,
I'd like to go back and play the actual original N64 version of this game. I haven't played it in a minute. I've played other versions, but this is it's one of the GOATs. Undeniably, indisputably, one of the best games ever. It's like we've mentioned it a million times. Like this isn't just one of the best Mario games. It changed everything. It was a game changer.
It was.
It changed the rules of how you make video games, how you play video games. It was so unique. Mm-hmm. Did you guys were you ever able to wall jump to the top of the castle or whatever? Wasn't there some goat like go around technique or something so you could like bypass stuff?
I never did that. I know I've seen people do like cheats and stuff online.
Oh yeah,
like speed run stuff where they skip a bunch of stuff, but I've never done it. Mm-hmm. I got all 120 stars and saw Yoshi, but
did you mention the slidey race in the penguin level? That was great.
That was cool. Yeah.
That's memorable.
Yes, it's just such a good game.
It's a game, yeah. We can't say a lot more than's already been said about Super Mario 64.
I just remember as a kid in the different fast food restaurants, the toys and different things. How it's just you wanted to collect all those. I kind of the one that sticks out in my mind are just random memories. I think it was at Taco Bell, so your favorite place.
Let's go.
I think it was where it was one of those kind of puzzles where it was like a cube shaped where it had the little puzzles, so it's like little metal ball and you move it around like different different screenshots or something.
And one of the the things was a Nintendo 64 shaped like toy, right? Like that it did. I don't know.
I believe it. There are so many different things, but it's just again that magical of the 3D, the 64 where it really changed things and it was exciting times.
Mm-hmm. It really did. Well, guys, go ahead and surprise the audience. What's your number one? You guys can say it at the same time.
3, Wait. Are we going to start with the word the? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
3,
Two,
2, 1.
1.
The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Yes.
Guys, this game really is more like a 5.
5 out of 10, but on a top 10 list.
Yeah. There we go.
You better say that.
Yep.
Ocarina of Time is, it's like, it's so good. These are the two games that just make you just like kind of your mind just kind of melts with like love and memory. And when Ocarina of Time came out, I remember bringing it home, and this was the first game I remember really like kind of experiencing alone, if that makes any sense, because I remember
Put your brother in his room, lock the door.
this is probably the first time Jordan had experienced something like, oh man, I want to play, but like, yeah, we took turns in Mario 64. We probably took turns and played against each other in Wave Race and other games, but like Zelda was this immersive, massive, beautiful world full of mystery and danger, and I don't even remember what I felt about Zelda back then. Like, I know I'd watched my cousin play Link to the Past. I feel like I'd played and dabbled in it myself. I don't know if I'd beaten it at that point in my childhood, but I know I'd played it. I don't know what I expected of this game, but whatever you expected, it exceeded every expectation.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah, the music, man. The music in that game is...
Music.
Dude, from the very title screen.
Yeah.
You remember the title screen song? It's just like enchanting, like
It's one of the best soundtracks of any video game of all time.
hands down.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's set the tone and set the pattern for like every Zelda game that came after, up until Breath of the Wild, really, you know, like to some degree or another. This is going to sound like, I don't know, reductive, or like even like I'm bashing the Zelda games that came next, but they're all just like essentially reskins of this game. You know what I'm saying? Or they have like they're reskins, or they're like they have a different theme. They're set in a different locale, like in Sky in Skyward Sword, or on the water like in Wind Waker. And they all have their own like gimmick, and some do it better than others. Wind Waker did the best. But but like Ocarina of Time just like showed you how to play video games. It's similar to Super Mario 64 in a way games had never been played before.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
No, it 100%. I mean, honestly, too, like I don't know, it's not a plot twist, but like you do the first 3 dungeons, you know, and like they're already fantastic, and you're already off on this good like foot in the game. But then everything changes when you go to the temple and you pick. Was it you grab the Master Sword out and then time passes?
Yeah, 7 years.
Like,
Is it 7 years?
Yeah, and
7 years.
Everything changes, and that was like pretty mind blowing. Like, you know, like I don't think we'd experienced anything like that in a video game before. Where now it's like you're the same character, but everything has changed. The whole world is different.
Everything's different.
Yeah.
And you can pretty seamlessly go back and forth between the two. But it was, I mean, that was crazy. Like going through the Hyrule town, what is it? Is it whatever the actual city there, and like everything's dilapidated, and there's the creepy freaking zombie things walking around. They
redid.
Scream when they see you. Like those things were terrifying. But yeah, man, like so good. And it would be a sin not to mention the horribly difficult water temple.
This is like, famously where like most people got hung up.
Uh-huh.
If not for the first time, they eventually got hung up on the
Yeah.
water temple. I know that I walked away from this game when I first played the water temple. I don't remember when I came back. I did eventually.
Yeah.
It didn't take long, but I know that was the first time I stopped playing Zelda
Yeah.
for a while.
I remember my friend Nick came over and he brought it with him because I didn't own it at that time. So he brought it and we were going to play through it and try to beat the water temple. So he was staying the night and we did it. We beat it. And we were so excited. And no joke, the power went out. It was like super stormy outside and the power went out. I remember my dad had to go out and put the tarp back on the trailer that my parents had.
That is tragic.
But I remember we both were just like, just like this seriously just happened. We finally beat that godforsaken temple and we have to do it again.
Just shattered. All your hearts just went down to zero.
Yeah, literally. But man, it's iconic. There's just nothing else about it. Like I know it ranked lower on my list, but it is. I mean, realistically, it's top 2 64 game. Like
yeah, and similar to Mario 64, one of the GOATs, one of the best games of all time. Even after Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom came out, it's still among the best games of all time.
No, it still is. It set that groundwork.
What are your memories, Jared?
See, I think see, my memories of it was really my first Zelda game because I didn't ever play Link to the Past. It was until years later I kind of learned about that. So it was like the first Zelda game that I'm going to say open world, but I remember just going to the Hyrule Fields.
Yes.
Where that was, for that time, that was mind blowing. And especially learning after the fact when it came to the development of the game, where the team, the original idea was, well, it's going to be all sent to Ganondorf's castle, like in a tower, but because they couldn't figure out how to make it work, how they wanted. So it can kind of do Mario 64 in that sense, where it's not like paintings are the same thing. So there wasn't a way to make it open, but then they figured it out how to open it up, and then they were able to make Hyrule Field, and that was kind of like a selling point. I think they would really want to showcase what the 64. Once they figured that out, because the game would have been very different if they didn't do it. Really different,
a lot darker too, probably. If it was all, I love that you brought that up. I was going to bring it up if you didn't, but like I always forget about that. That like the first idea was like this. We're not sure that we can make a game this big with the hardware limitations, so. They thought, like this might just be all set in Ganon's castle, and like you said, it'd be like you go into I don't know, Kakariko Village might have been a painting,
something.
The Goron Mountain might have been another painting. Like they literally had the concept of Mario 64 initially, and another thing that's really cool about that is like eventually, obviously they got away from that. They made the Great Hyrule Field, and it was like you said, the first time you walk into it, and then when the first time you ride on Epona in that field,
that was my one
gosh. Too. But like, in the Forest Temple, against Shadow Ganon, he comes out of paintings. Yep. So they still incorporated one of their initial ideas.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Because so like it is interesting to me how Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time are still like inextricably linked by like the hardware and by some of the same people creating the games. You know, like, they kind of inspire each other in weird ways.
I didn't know that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Like you said, can you imagine how much different the game would have been if that's the route they went? It wouldn't have felt like as massive, like you said.
Yeah, completely different.
I can't remember if it was like a different team or was someone else who figured it out. It's kind of similar to Pokemon Gold and Silver, where it was going to be a much smaller game until it was a different team or a different guy then figured out how to then expand into Ad Kanto. Like it took another person or a team to figure it out.
Wasn't it Iwata that came in and helped on Pokemon Gold and Silver and figured out how to help make the game what it ended up becoming? Mm-hmm. Don't quote me on that. I feel like I remember.
It probably was. I just remember it took someone else to figure it out, and then can you imagine if there was not for a person or a team, or how different something would have been?
Yeah.
That's all it takes. Either some guy or a group that can figure something out, just whatever program, however that goes, and just. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they had the absolute A team working on this game as well as Mario 64, obviously. But like, I know that Eiji Aonuma, who currently is the director of Zelda and the Zelda development team, he headed up Majora's Mask. I'm pretty sure, or he was very involved at least for the first time in Majora's Mask. I would imagine he was on this team, but I don't think he was like, I don't know, the head of the team or whatever. But like, yeah, the game was. Dude, it was something. It was something. What was your guys' favorite temple? Do you have one like off the top of your head?
Oh, it's probably just saying top of my head. Just think it's between the forest and the fire temple.
Yeah. Just
kind of quick shot feel, but it could change. But like those ones are like most iconic. Maybe not even most iconic, but really stand out.
Yeah.
If we're just talking temples, I'd probably say fire temple. But like if we're talking dungeons in general, just any of them. I know it's probably stupid, but I'd probably say Great Deku Tree just because Deku Tree, just because of how iconic it is walking in there, and it still was like it was not a hard level, but it was very like well built, and it gave you a really good idea of how the rest of the game was going to be.
And like from the very get go, that dungeon, it made the game feel massive, right? Like the camera was weird, especially initially on the original version, but like they zoom in and they look up and they show you like this massive chamber inside the Deku Tree, and you're like. Wow.
Yeah. I remember how massive, and it just felt crazy. Like, I don't know how to explain it other than it was just mind blowing.
Well, it was the very first one, very unique. That's a really good one. I was thinking not temples, but now dungeons. By expanding that, I guess it's just 3 more.
Oh yeah, I guess I was imagining all of them, but like that is a great pick, honestly. Like how vertical it was, like in a game where you couldn't jump. Yeah. Like how high you had to go with just like auto jumps based on you like approach ledges and you just
That's pretty intimidating.
Yeah. Oh, you went lower too, right? Because there were like cobwebs.
You had to go down.
There was cobwebs and yeah, it's just I mean,
That's an amazing game.
It is. There's a reason why it still like tends to be in the top 10 lists of games of all time, not just 64 games. Like it's commonly in the top 10 lists.
yeah.
So there's definitely a reason for that. So if you haven't played it, I don't know what you're doing with it.
We don't know what's wrong.
You probably don't play video games, I'm guessing, if you haven't played this
We're
game.
just insulting people now. Oh, man. So good lists, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they weren't crazy identical. I knew mine was going to be different. I would have been surprised if either of you guys had Pokemon Puzzle League on there.
I almost had Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of games that almost made the cut. It was a hard
Oh, dude, it was painful, honestly.
list to work around. So you want to do some honorable mentions?
In memoriam.
In memoriam, the fallen soldiers,
The Fallen Soldiers.
the ones that almost made the list. We're also running extremely long.
Yeah.
So, well, and we have Discord comments to go through.
Okay.
So,
Let's do it.
Go ahead, blast them.
So my honorable mentions were I put Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie because they were gonna be I couldn't figure out how to get them on there, but I wanted to.
Nice.
Those are the obvious ones. Obviously, at different points, I had Mario Party on the list as well, and other games too. But the other ones that I really almost put on the list were Vigilante 8, Second Offense, and Mischief Makers.
All right.
Vigilante
Nice.
8 was didn't make the cut just because I know I have fond memories of it, but it was also as a PlayStation 1 game, but it's basically a Twisted Metal clone.
Yeah.
But I really like this game a lot, but it didn't beat out the other 10 games on this list at all.
Yeah. That's fair.
Mischief Makers, I love what I've played of that game, but I could not in a clean conscience put it on the list because I've never owned it and I've only ever played it a couple times, but it's stupid that I've never owned this game because I remember I rented it twice and I remember how much I loved it and I've always wanted to own it again and I just need to buy it one of these days. But I feel like that game will probably make my top 10 when I eventually play through it all the way because of how much I really have enjoyed what I've played over the years. But yeah, that game's made by Treasure too. So speaking of Ikaruga, it's the Treasure team.
Interesting.
It's a very good, strong development team.
Seriously.
A very good game. Pretty underrated as far as 64 games go. Like you don't hear people talk about it all that often.
Yeah.
It was one of the games I had on the lookout when I went to Portland last year for the Retro Gaming Expo, and I wanted it CIB, but I never saw a copy.
Yeah.
It's not too expensive loose, but I want it complete. And it's much more expensive that way. But I went there with the plan to buy it if I could find it. But
Nice.
Anyway, that's my honorable mentions.
All right.
More obscure stuff.
See, for my honorable mentions, this goes to the games where either friends or family had it, so wasn't able to play it all myself, the whole thing, like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark would be on that. Just again, I was like my neighborhood kid or friend who had those games, so that's like the Jet Force, Gemini games, and the GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. So because I recognize, especially with GoldenEye and Perfect Dark, and really GoldenEye to start it, like really making it popular, FPS and really accessible for everyone. So I recognize that.
Yeah.
But also Mario Tennis, because he had that game too.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed that. That was really fun.
It was great.
It really was. He had that, and then my cousins had the Mario Party game. So that's because like the cousins, they had Mario Party, so that's where I play that. But I recognize how fun those were.
Yeah. All good. Mario Tennis is very good. It's a lot
solid.
of fun. It's where they introduced everybody's creepiest uncle, Waluigi. Good series, or good game though.
Yep.
Jimmy?
Shadows of the Empire, rip.
Mm-hmm.
Banjo-Kazooie, rip. I guess Mario Party 3, rip. GoldenEye 007, rip. It's Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, rip. Mario Tennis, I didn't even think about that one, but that's a great
one.
game. That would have been borderline too. I'm honestly glad I didn't think about it. It would have made my decisions even harder. Like I remember some of those like matches on the net where you're just like right in front of the net, just that was a great multiplayer game. Yeah, well, games like you, I hope somebody finds somebody that loves you the way you deserve.
I don't even know what that meant.
I don't even know either. I'm tired.
He's getting hilarious.
All right. It is running late. I didn't mean for this episode to go long, but I should have figured it would have. Okay, so we're going to do some listener responses. So I asked on the Discord for people to give their top 3 to 5 favorite Nintendo 64 games. That way there was a little wiggle room, but I figured at least everybody could at least come up with 3. So Legendary was the first to respond. He said, I haven't played many 64 games, but for me, the top 3 are Ocarina of Time for nostalgia, Majora's Mask because it's really cool, and Paper Mario, the one that started it all. I meant to ask him, was he talking about Paper Mario, like that was just the first Paper Mario game, or the one that started all for his RPG love? Because I know he loves RPGs now. But anyway, you can let me know, Gary. Wasiji Jaden said, the Zeldas and Marios will probably be in everyone's top spot, so I'll go with the others in my top 10. Some people like to mix things up.
That's
so
true,
he gave 5 of his top 10, but not necessarily the top 5. So he said Banjo, and I asked later, he meant Kazooie. Conker's Bad Fur Day, F-Zero X. I know. So mature, Jaden. F-Zero X, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and Mega Man 64. Which honestly,
Nice.
Tony Hawk should have definitely been on his list.
Yep.
Try Wave Race 64, Jaden. Tell me how you feel about it versus F-Zero, honestly.
Especially if you haven't played it. If you have, let him know that you think it sucks. You be proud.
Well,
of
F-Zero?
your
I don't think
opinion.
F-Zero sucks.
No, I was talking to him. I was
Oh,
talking to Jaden.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The Alextravaganza said Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time. Okay, if they have to be in order, so this is 1 to 5, I think. Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time's number 2, Diddy Kong Racing number 3, Banjo-Kazooie number 4, Smash Brothers number 5.
Nice.
And then he said, on a side note, why don't they have Smash Brothers on NSO?
Wait,
Oh, they don't.
that is a good question.
Yeah.
You're right.
Oh my
That
gosh.
is-
Direct
weird.
chatter just gonna go crazy now in our Discord.
Well, he said that 2 days ago, so I'm sure it doesn't seem like it is.
But it is a good
I would
question.
hope
It
they
is.
do that.
That's
I
a
mean,
very-
why wouldn't they? That's like all Nintendo. There's no third party
a-
involved
Not in that one.
It's a
I don't know. They're waiting
very-
until they need it for something.
It's a very good
Like
question.
announce the next Smash.
Give themselves
or-
some goodwill for something. They probably already have it ready to drop. They're just
Yeah,
figuring
it's
out when they need
just-
to do it.
Sure.
Whatever their weird nonsensical slow drip of NSO games.
All right, and then the last Discord comment, Bird Dog Gaming, his top 4 are from let's go 4 to 1. Star Fox 64,
Nice.
Rayman 2: The Great Escape,
Nice.
Mario Party 3,
Let's go.
and Super Mario 64.
Yeah, baby.
So
All good
very
choices.
good ones. And I told him, I was like, if you didn't have Rayman on your list, that would have been a sin because
Is he
he's
a
the
super-
biggest Rayman fan
Is
that,
he really?
that I know. Yeah.
That was on PlayStation as well, yeah, I believe.
It was also on Dreamcast.
on Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dreamcast.
And then it's been ported to other consoles since. But
Interesting.
okay, now over to Instagram, where I asked a similar question, but I just asked basically, what's your favorite 64 game and why? And I got a decent amount of responses on there too. So Angel Man said Super Mario 64, simple but great intro to 3D platforming, memorable music, and I logged countless hours on that game. Jay Choi said Star Fox 64. It's one of the games I've played and won the most in single player.
Nice.
The multiplayer was played on repeat with friends for a long time.
Yep.
So much fun finding all the secret paths and replaying again and again to do different to do different routes.
Yep.
Difficulty was just right at the different levels as well.
Agreed.
Agreed. Gabe Blackford said Perfect Dark. Me and my cousin versus all the
Dude.
bots, covering each other with remote mines. Real witness me vibe. I think it was meant more in witness me.
Yeah.
That was great.
Either way, dude, perfect art.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. So good.
All right. Danny Chang said Star Fox because barrel roll.
Do a barrel roll.
Let's go.
Tiffany McFarland, my sister, said Donkey Kong 64. It was just so much fun, which I didn't know she'd ever played it. So, yeah, it is fun. Nathan Elliott said Rogue Squadron 64. He liked the level setup and the
Yeah,
gameplay.
let's go.
Get it.
Amen. And then Alex responded on here as well. He said, no, this is a slightly different question than on Discord. Guess I'll have to answer it. He said, it's all the same answer, Mario 64, but the why is partly nostalgia, but also because it's still such a great game. As a platformer, it's hard to beat. With the way that they made Mario's movement as smooth as you have a wide array of skills open to you right at the beginning and a huge variety of levels, I think the only thing that keeps it from being perfect, trademark, is the camera controls. Everything else about it
Yeah,
is a
that's fair.
masterpiece.
Remember that annoying rabbit you had to grab in the
Oh, I hated that.
underground
I
thing?
did
was
hate
tough.
that level. Or that
That was
part.
tough. Yep.
And then last Instagram response was K Choi. So Christine Choi said,
I got 2 or 3. But
You
they're
have a
really
couple?
short. Yeah.
Okay. I have after that. I have 2 more that are longer.
All right, fair enough.
And she said Pokemon Stadium 2 because it had some amazing mini games to play with others on with others or on my own using my own Pokemon.
Yeah.
Plus, the Poke Cups were a fun challenge. I could also play Pokemon on my Game Boy on my TV.
Cool.
Amen, man. And Pokemon Stadium 2 better than Pokemon Stadium 1.
Those
So
mini games on both were so good.
Yeah.
I've played some with Christine recently, actually.
yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, James, with your.
Brandon Barry. I said, "What's your favorite N64 game?" On my little note circle thing, he said, "Excitebike 64." That's a good answer, dude. I'm another really good racer on 64. Brian Ramirez. He said Ocarina of Time, which I still have, and he sent me a picture of his cartridge.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I love the detail there, the attention to detail.
Yeah. Naam, his brother, who we all know.
Ayo, Naam.
Captain Falcon player. By the way, Brian's a Pikmin, Olimar player, I should say. Naam said Mario 64, hours upon hours just playing with Brian. And he also wanted me to give a shout out to Cameron Brink. If you know, you know.
I don't.
So we know. We don't.
Okay. I was
We
like,
don't.
what is this? Okay, so my last two. So I asked two specific people that I know love the 64 to give me their personal top 10s with a little explanation as to why for each game if they wanted to. And they both said, I'd love to. So first is my friend Caleb, who I mentioned a couple times on this episode. We did not grow up together, but we've since played a lot of 64 games together, and I know how much he loves the 64 from his youth. So he said, since I was a mid-teen for the 64 era, half of my top 10 are multiplayer, since I was with friends a lot. We spent many late night hours playing battle mode in Mario Kart or custom matches in Perfect Dark. But when we got Ocarina of Time, we would switch off playing our save file and the others would watch. We were stoked to even watch such an amazing advancement of Zelda becoming 3D. That was really the beauty of the 64. It took all the games we loved, Mario, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, etc., and brought them all to full 3D. Putting the top five are probably in, oh my god. Putting my favorites in order is very tough. That's what I missed there.
Yeah.
The top five are probably in good order, but the others are harder to place. And sadly, games like Shadows of the Empire didn't make my list because I never played them, unfortunately.
Totally get it.
Still need to do that. I'll start with a few honorable mentions, just barely missed the cut. Hey, I didn't even see that he put these here. Vigilante 8. Amen,
Hey.
brother.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Jet Force Gemini.
Nice.
Amen. And Diddy Kong Racing. He enjoyed it, but I didn't play it as much since only one friend had it. Okay, so his top 10. Number 10, Super Mario 64. Nothing wrong with it, since I've never finished it since I didn't own it
That's
for
fair.
a long time. Number 9, and also fantastic game, Gauntlet Legends.
Yeah, man.
Nothing like hours of this with Linkin Park playing in the background while eating pizza.
Let's go.
Amen.
Hack and slash heaven,
Dude,
basically.
Gauntlet Legends and Gauntlet Legends Dark Legacy.
Oh, man.
Fantastic.
Love those games.
Number 8, Harvest Moon 64. The first
we
Harvest
go.
Moon I played, did anyone not marry Karen? It is true.
Is that the redhead?
No, that's
wrong choice.
redhead. I went between Karen and Potpourri every time I played. Then he said number 7, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Who doesn't want to fly an X-wing?
Yep.
And he said number 6 is Mario Party 2 and 3. He said I'm cheating a little with 2 games here, but I played 2 more, but I love both.
It's a tough call.
Number 5, Majora's Mask. More great Zelda action, and you could play as other creatures, though the 3-day cycle wasn't my favorite. Number 4, Perfect Dark. So many hours and rage here. Number 3, Mario Kart 64. Just great fun all around. Number 2, Donkey Kong 64.
Wow,
He
dude.
said maybe a surprise.
Spicy.
Again, Donkey Kong, but in 3D was just fantastic. Also, this was my first game since I got the bundle with the Jungle Green N64 and Banana controller, and I still have it all. He does. That controller is dope.
That's
It's
pretty
literally
cool.
yellow, like one of the yellow controllers, but it has the Donkey Kong 64 label in the center, and then the edge of each handle of the controller, whatever you want to call them, has like a brown, like the look of a bottom of a banana.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's super cool.
Oh, nice.
And then number 1, Ocarina of Time. No surprise here, the quintessential Zelda for me.
Heck yeah.
Paved the way for some great 3D Zelda games before they lost their way with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
And then he put laughing faces.
Can we edit this video now?
Wrong.
No,
I agree with everything else Caleb said.
you lost him there, but I think your list was perfect, Caleb.
Good job, Caleb.
No, thank
I
you for
guess.
submitting that, homie. Like I know that he loves 64, so I couldn't not ask
Yeah.
him. I wanted to get him on the episode, but because it was so hard to pick a day and their meeting is on Tuesday, I was like, and I think he was going to be out of town, so I was just like, we just had to get this squared away. But I knew that he needed to give me his top 10. So the other person I asked for a top 10 was from the Discord. Now I rock a Teller suit
Let's go.
because he.
I think I know
loves
what's going to get number 1.
the 64.
Maybe.
You might be right, but you also might be wrong.
I know.
So he said his ranking system was number 10, GoldenEye. He said it has not aged well, but at the time the multiplayer was incredibly fun to play with friends.
Yep.
Even if you didn't have a 64, you were expected to be serviceable playing stack with automatic.
That stack was great, man. That's a good point.
All right, number 9, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. He said, I played more of one, but adding manuals for endless combos jumped the replay value of an already great game formula 100 times over.
Nice.
100%. And a better soundtrack. No, it's a better soundtrack. Number 1 was good, but 2 is the GOAT. Though 3 is my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, not that matters to this conversation. Number 8, Majora's Mask. Great execution of Groundhog Day and butterfly effect mechanics. That's a good way to put it.
That's a really good way to put it.
Number 7, Mario Kart 64. Similar to Mario 64, came out early in the 64 life cycle and set the bar high for 3D racing games in this case.
Yep.
I'm sure Rare used MK64 as a blueprint to make Diddy Kong Racing. Mm-hmm. Number 6, Diddy Kong Racing. Over Mario Kart due to creative one-player adventure mode offering and car hovercraft plane mode of transportation variety.
Do not blame him.
Yep.
And then I realized I forgot to read before I read his top 5, I'm going to go back and read the blurb he sent me too. He said, okay, I can see this going a lot of different ways depending on criteria people use to justify their top 10. I also think when you played these games will influence how they are ranked. For example, I think it's going to be hard for anyone who played Mario 64 at launch not to have it at 1 through 3, somewhere between 1 through 3.
He's not.
Amen.
He's not wrong.
As an aside, my first 2 games were actually Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey and Mario Kart 64.
Let's go.
Super Mario 64 set the bar high and shines better than Banjo-Kazooie in some areas, but Banjo-Kazooie is the better game, and I'm ready to defend this take on the Discord. Come at me, bros.
That's not the first time we've heard that very phrase. So.
Yeah. He said, I tried to stay as true as I could to which games gave me the most enjoyable experience. Okay, so now back. Sorry I missed that at first, but I just realized when I got to Mario 64 and he didn't have something there, it's because he'd already talked about it a little bit up above.
Okay, it makes sense.
Okay, so number 5 was Mario 64. Number 4, Star Fox 64.
Yep.
Not part of my rankings, but as a side, this game might have aged the best of all 64 games. That's kind of what you guys already said a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, number 3, Banjo-Kazooie.
Very nice.
Near perfect collectathon. Fun and intuitive gameplay. Large levels, but not too large. Minimal backtracking and humorous. Amen. That's when I think of that game. That's one of the first things I think about is how funny that game was. Mm-hmm. And how I went back to play it probably like 5 years ago and was actually like laughing out loud because it is funny.
It's great.
Number 2, Super Smash Brothers. Best multiplayer game on the system.
Let's go.
And number 1, Superman 64.
Oh, yeah.
Ocarina of Time.
Let's go.
Tough to put it into words how extraordinary this game was compared to its peers, not just in 98, but for years after. 100%, man. And there is a reason why 2 out of 3 of us had it at number 1.
Yep.
And one of us had it somewhere else.
We didn't even talk about the Z targeting system and how that changed like at action adventure games, and
we
didn't even talk about the N64 controller at all in this There is so much you could get into.
We could go on for hours, and we already have.
We apologize.
And this was just a top 4. This is now the longest episode of all time.
This is just.
I apologize, everybody. It didn't mean for it to go this long, but don't listen to it all in one sitting. You're crazy if you do that.
Yeah, just 1 hour at a time.
This will get you through half a day of work, and you'll get to truly enjoy listening to us reminisce about 64. Why am I saying this at the end of an episode? At this point, they've already clocked out.
They checked out a couple hours ago.
Oh, man. No, it's a fun episode. I want to do more stuff like this going forward, too. I feel like we've covered a lot of basic topics over the last 2.5 years. You know, a lot of people's favorite topics and stuff. Now we need to get into more of this kind of content. You know, top 10 lists, top... ranking different franchises and stuff like we did with Mario. Really starting to, mix it up a little bit. But on that being said, I also have like 3 or 4 months of episodes booked out. And there's no more of this.
That's good. That's the way it should be. Nice.
Well, written down. So I still need to talk to people. I've been very bad about that. But yeah, so if you made it this far, I definitely appreciate you listening. If you didn't get a chance to share your favorite 64 games already, feel free to do so. Shout out to us on We're maybe on Instagram in the comments. I'll probably post it on X. You can comment there. I'm trying to be more active in Threads too. Like I'm trying to do a little bit more on all the social media to get out there a little bit more. Obviously the Discord, if you haven't joined it already, or whether you are or not, you can talk about your favorite 64 games on there. I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion after this episode airs, since I put Ocarina of Time at number 5.
I don't think that is the issue, honestly. You gave it justice.
I did. Yeah, no, but nonetheless, if you listen to this whole episode, I definitely appreciate it. You're a real one.
Parting words, fellas?
Yeah. Anything else to say here, Jer Bear?
If you lasted this long, you've got some major skills.
Amen. Top tier.
Mm-hmm.
Jimbo?
Hey, listen! Bring back our Sonics.
Yeah. Ain't happening. No, it probably is, actually. I don't know. What do I know about the Sonics? Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate everybody listening. And just as a side note, I'm really pushing towards finally starting YouTube content. Coming up soon, probably in the next couple of months, I will be doing a store walkthrough with Wes at Collector's Haven that we're going to record on video and do on YouTube.
Nice.
And if I haven't already started uploading other stuff by then, I will start after that. But what I would like to hear from anybody listening, man, if you listen this far, you're one of my loyal fans. So what I would like to hear is what kind of content you would actually like to see on YouTube. Like I have ideas for stuff I want to do, but I'd like to hear more about what would be something you'd be interested in seeing, because it might help me with content flow too. But I'm still kind of figuring this all out, but I've been working on it. So yeah, so that's it there. So in conclusion, yeah, if you haven't already, please make sure to follow me on social media, basically everywhere now, X Button Gaming. And please do follow, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it, YouTube, Spotify, it doesn't matter. All the support definitely helps. Thank you guys very much for coming on here. Thank Kim for letting you be away from the baby for basically half a day to record an episode. I appreciate you guys, though. I really do.
It was fun.
It was good times.
It was. We'll do it again. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. We're going to sound off. So, yeah, that's it. Remember to always press X to continue, and we'll see you on the next one.
I've got my eye on you.